Thank you, commissioners. Yes, he confirmed that he had withdrew the money on that day, but not specifically 300,000, but he withdrew an amount of 500,000, but gave General Sibia an amount of 300,000.
And just to confirm, this amount of 300,000 was given or handed over at the wedding celebration that you've earlier mentioned. Is that correct?
That is correct, commissioners.
Witness C, I have a further clip. Please bear with us. Witness C, in the continuance of our sub-theme, this will be the final audio clip. We're going to play it shortly. Please pay attention.
Okay.
So Yana is someone who, when you mention money, he stops everything. But I remember one day I gave him money inside his office.
Witness C, in the routine form, please identify the voice that we've heard.
The voice that we have heard is that of Mr. Matlala.
So Yana is someone who, when you mention money, he stops everything. But I remember one day I gave him money inside his office. His office, the national office. That's the other thing. That's 200,000 was not there. You can say that as I look at that from the office.
But when why are you keep paying? I'm still not satisfied with your answers.
Why am I paying?
Yeah.
I will try to look as if now I can look after yourself whenever one day help a little now. But for now.
Witness C, in addition to the voice of Mr. Matlala that you earlier identified, please tell the commission who the other voices belong to that we have heard.
Thank you, Commissioner. The voice that we can clearly hear there, it's that of witness B, the one who said she is not satisfied with his answers as to why would you keep on paying.
And witness C, several aspects of some portions of the clip are in vernacular. Could I ask you to give the commission a brief summation of what was being discussed in that excerpt?
Thank you. Mr. Matlala there, he says that he remember once he went to the national office of the DNC, whereby and that the DNC, when he thinks of money, he will stop everything. And there he had instructed him to place money inside the dustbin in his because like at his office there's a bathroom, so inside in the bathroom in the dustbin.
And were you able to determine the amount of money that he says was deposited into the dustbin?
Yes, in my oral testimony, I didn't give the amount. There, I got it now. He said an amount of 200,000.
Thank you, witness C. Chairperson, that's the extent of the recordings that we intended to play and the extent of our questions on this subject for witness C.
I was hoping to hear about the impalas.
Um, Commissioner Kumalo, as indicated to Commissioner Baloy, if we played everything, we would be here for a while. Indeed.
Can
If there's
Upwards of 4 hours.
perhaps you should get the witness to confirm whether the recordings also include conversations about General Khan and General Shibiri, because you haven't played any of that.
witness C, are you able to inform the commission whether the recording you took includes discussion involving General Khan and General Shibiri by Mr. Matala?
Thank you, commissioners. Indeed, the recordings that we took, it includes that his utterances or discussions about General Khan and also General Shibiri.
Can we confirm with you, Ms. Matlasedi, that you will provide a transcript of what is set out in this statement as part of the conversation, the chats, and that transcript will be publicly available? Can we confirm that as part of the record of the commission?
We can confirm that, Commissioner Baloy, subject of course to the fact that certain utterances in the transcript would reveal the identity of the three witnesses we've identified as A, B, and C. And so that might very well need to be redacted, as well as where the information relayed by Mr. Matlala relates to ongoing criminal investigations, which are at a sensitive stage and couldn't be disclosed. But outside of those exceptions, I confirm.
Witness C, I just need you to confirm something for me because we may never get this opportunity again. Do you have your statement in front of you? Your written statement?
Yes, Commissioner Kumalo, I do have.
Please go to page 30 and tell me once you're there.
I'm at page 30, Commissioner.
Yes. Can you just confirm for us when we listen to these recordings on our own that what is set out in paragraphs 92 all the way to 103 can be heard in those recordings?
Yes, Commissioner, definitely that will be heard in the recording, Commissioner.
So what is set out in your written statement comes from the recordings?
That is correct, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Mashasedi, we must give an exhibit number to the recording. What do we call it? I think when Ms. Powe was leading a witness, we said that the evidence leaders must keep a running tally. Do we have that readily available so as to continue on that and give this an exhibit number?
Subject to correction, Chairperson, the last exhibit number would be CJC 5.3, CJC 5.3. So this would then be CJC 5.4.
Does it mean we'll stay within 5 throughout, or is it 5 because of what again?
Because it would fall in line with the exhibit bundles that have been utilized across the evidence of witness A, B, and C. So we've called those 5.1, 5.2, and the last exhibit would be 5.3. Yes. Okay. Yes. But please allow me an opportunity to confirm that and to consider a more
Thank
effective name if I'm incorrect about the sequencing.
Thank you. For later.
Indeed, Chairperson, I will get back to you.
Thank you. Provisionally, then let's call it 5 point what?
4, please.
5.4.
CJC 5.4.
And then what happens next? We
And
adjourn
no,
at this
before
point.
that, Chair, perhaps just to complete that description, we should say CJC 5.4 is a transcript of the, so that when you go to the record, you know what it is.
Indeed, Commissioner.
Thank you. At this point, we adjourn and
Thank Chair.
yes.
My
Ms.
apologies. Might I thank witness C before I hand over to you to advise the public on the proceedings tomorrow?
Let me do that. Witness C, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners, for giving me this opportunity. And I thank you.
Between Ms. Sillo and Ms. Musasedi, do we know what is happening tomorrow?
Chair, as I understand it, a request had been to stand down for tomorrow and hearings resume on Monday. That will be lost track of Monday the 3rd. So there will be no sitting tomorrow, Chair.
Let's adjourn then and resume at 9:30 on Monday.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, there you are. Adjournment of the Madlanga Commission to resume on Monday morning, 9:30. It means more time to get a response from you. And I've, as I often do, ask you this one question as opposed to a general consensus. Just give me a thought of, for you, the moment of the day so far at the Madlanga Commission.
FCA will only be happy with maximum points. However, PVP believe they will paint Augsburg in yellow and black. This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Catch FC Augsburg and Borussia Dortmund on Friday, 31 October at 8:30 p.m. live from SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 Rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 Rand and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Okay, let's get reaction from you. You've heard the proceedings of the Madlanga Commission. So witness C has now testified and is done. But what are your thoughts? I mean, two things overall in terms of the commission today. That's one. Number two, perhaps the comparison between just what you hear between the Madlanga Commission and the parliamentary ad hoc committee, just in terms of how you hear it, the tone, the questions, the witnesses, the questions from commissioners or people in parliamentarians, and what you pick up on that. And then, of course, that issue, the moment for you today at the Madlanga Commission, what for you stood out and got you off your seat when you heard that? I'd like to know. Now, you can call in. You can call in live. You know that. We'll take your calls right away. You can send us a WhatsApp. And if you're doing that, you can send that right away just to ensure that it's not more than 30 seconds, please. But beyond that, there are many other issues in the Middle East, issues with regard to Sudan, issues with Eswatini. There are many other issues that you may want to pick up on that I'd like to engage you with, and maybe vice versa.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
All right, let's do this. Let's play some of your voice comments.
Ashraf, you know what? I'm a tough nut to crack, but I'll tell you what, I shed a tear when I heard this witness C telling the commission about his passion as an ordinary rank and file police on the ground, while other people, the so-called high ranking, could be as evil as the demons up there. It really tore my heart apart. I couldn't believe it, that people could be so filthy, so disgustingly filthy, and plunge the entire country into the hands of the criminals. I think we need to do something as the citizens of this country. Matibang, thank you.
Thanks for that, Maribang. That's what I want. A moment for you from today that stood out, that got you off your seat, and you were astounded. And you can quote that moment, be very specific about it, so we all know. Right, let's get to another caller, Anonymous. Hello, Anonymous.
Good day, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good indeed. Right, I hope you're well.
Look, actually, I'm good. And what I did is right from what you have to say about from what do you call it Palapala situation. And is what he told us that is you program so he that
Okay. Yeah. All right, Anonymous, thank you for that. What do you expect?
Okay.
Those last words from Anonymous. Thank you. Any other callers, ladies, male, female, young, old, in South Africa, out of South Africa, from the African continent, wherever you may be, and you are connected to the National Pulse either by listening in on radio or streaming live or via our YouTube channel, we need to hear from you. What about this?
Many of you media people, especially in the red, you said Mkonas was bluffing, and he was grammatic with the media statement he put on the 6th. And now we know why he was like that. Now we understand why he was like that. He was angry. As South Africans, most of us, we are angry. at the news that we are hearing from Madlanga now Commission. I wonder how are you feeling now, all of you, Ashraf? We were treating Corners as he was bluffing. He's in Paris.
Yeah, but you see, you're making such a sweeping statement. Like when you say all of you, some of you, like how many? 1%, 2%, 5%? I never said he's bluffing. For example, I think what we said is we need to take his testimony seriously. What we also said is we can't say he's 100% correct because that has to be tested at a commission and then in court if need be. So you can't just say he's 100% right. But I think I've certainly made the point that he's certainly he's got us sitting up and making note of like where we are. So I don't know, when we talk about the media, it's such a broad statement about the media. Which people are you talking about? And did they all really say he was bluffing? Really?
Good afternoon, Ashraf and SAFM listeners. It's Robert KZN Motu. Ashraf, I've got no words, honestly speaking. The evidence, the testimonies that are coming out from the Madlanga Commission A, B, and C, I would like to know what Kwanaze and Sbia, to look them straight in the face and see how they feel after all the lies they came and told at the ad hoc committee. Thanks.
Okay, there we are. So that's one person not quite impressed actually in terms of as you said, the perceptions of how things continue. Well, what about this key? In fact, we'll play some other voice notes. There's many. We'll play them just now. Now you can call in, you can engage, call in live, voice notes. I'll take them all. But let's get to the news headlines now. It's 3:30 years on Della Mbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, Justice and Constitutional Development Minister Mamoloko Kubai has welcomed the confirmation that the accused in the murder of musician Keenan, aka Forbes, and Tibelo Mtwane have withdrawn their appeal against extradition from Eswatini to South Africa. Pressure is mounting on President Cyril Ramaphosa to trim his cabinet and do away with deputy ministers. This follows revelations that 2 deputy police ministers had gone for over a year without any specific responsibilities delegated to them. And French prosecutors say 5 new suspects have been arrested overnight in connection with the audacious daylight heist at the world-famous Louvre Museum in Paris. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Midrand has a crash before New Road, the N12 eastbound in Boksburg, a crash before Atlas Road, and the N12 eastbound in Eldorado Park, a crash after Klipspruit Valley Road. In KZN, rain reported across parts of Durban, so please reduce your speeds and drive with care in the affected areas. The N3 westbound is where fatal crashes reported at Hammersdale, and on the M13 eastbound on Kloof, there's a crash before Village Road. In Cape Town, Baden-Powell Drive northbound in Macassar, slow moving at the N2 highway. Kloofneck Road outbound is slow moving through Tambourkloof, and the N1 outbound slow moving on Plattekloof Hill. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
SAFM Music, good times, good memories.
I'm just like somebody inspired.
Old school sounding so good. SAFM Music with you wherever you go. SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. This is SAFM Sports with Domin Kapele.
Okay, yesterday we reveled in the glory of the Proteas women's team reaching the Cricket World Cup final in majestic fashion. Today we have news about an African Cup of Nations winning coach who has got news about where she goes next, yeah?
Absolutely. A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Well, South African Football Association President Danny Jordan has confirmed that Banyana head coach Desiree Ellis has officially signed a new 4-year contract. Banyana recently secured qualification for next year's Women's Africa Cup of Nations without Ellis on the bench as contract talks had been going on. Now, Jordan says that the new deal allows Ellis to fully focus on preparing for the team for the upcoming WAFCON and building on their recent success.
Yeah, she signed the contract. You saw her today. She's happy and everything is fine. No, I'm happy that everything is settled and you could see from support for the under 17, giving them a message of support that she's back and now they must focus because we have to rebuild Banyana. There are some players that we have to look at, young players, and look at alternatives and build the team because it's not going to be easy. The AFCON is going to have many women teams that's going to be very difficult to beat.
Well, the SA Under-17 men's football team left for Qatar today for the FIFA Under-17 World Cup. South Africa are in Group A together with their first opponents, Bolivia, who are playing on the 3rd of November. Italy and the host Qatar. Then elsewhere, Real Madrid and promoters of the failed European Super League are demanding more than $4 billion in damages from UEFA, accusing the governing body for unfairly crushing their breakaway competition. A Spanish court this week dismissed an appeal from UEFA, marking another legal setback for the organization. The Super League was launched in 2021 by 12 top European clubs, including Real Madrid and Barcelona, but collapsed within days. This is following backlash from fans, especially in England, and the threat of sanctions from UEFA and FIFA. In terms of rugby, Eddie Jones says that Japan must be good enough to stop the Springboks' trademark power game if they to have any hope of repeating their 2015 World Cup miracle. The Brave Blossoms coach believes that South Africa's physical dominance and aerial threat are the two key areas to neutralize at Wembley on Saturday. Meanwhile, Springbok and Bulls prop Jan-Hendrik Wessels has had his suspension reduced from 9 to 8 weeks. This is after losing his appeal against a ban for allegedly manhandling an opponent. Wessels was initially handed a 9-match suspension for grabbing Connacht flanker Josh Murphy. This was during the United Rugby Championship clash. And although match officials found no clear evidence at the time, the disciplinary committee later imposed the ban, a decision that sparked anger among South African rugby fans. Then obviously we're keeping a close eye on what is happening between Australia and India in the Cricket Women's World Cup. Australia were bowled out for 338 with a ball to spare in their semi-final against India. And Phoebe Litchfield top scored with 119. So India need 339 runs to win. Remember, the win between these two will face South Africa in Sunday's final. On that note, it's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
Listen, before I let you go, just quick thought about, because we never spoke after the Proteas women's team won yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, overall, quite a devastatingly good result. I mean, like devastating in terms of just how ruthless they were.
Very ruthless. I mean, you look at the captain, Laura Fulvard, leading from the front in terms of batting. Marizanne Kapp. Oh my goodness. I mean, she even said, I ended up crying afterwards because I couldn't believe. Remember, now she's like the all-time wicket taker in the ODI World Cups with 44. And I mean, we're expecting more in the final. I don't know. Do I want Australia or India in the final?
I don't care. I just want us to deliver.
Of course, we have to deliver. But
No
one is
sentiments.
easier than the other, isn't it?
No sentiments either, of them, really. It's what's it? No DNA, just RSA. Something like
RSA,
that. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Okay, more sport in an hour.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation.
You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM. SAFM.
Right, we're going to take your calls and comments shortly, so keep them coming. WhatsApp comments via 0614 104 107. That's voice or text, and to call in live 086 000 2032. You can tweet using that hashtag, the National Pulse, when you tag SAFM Radio, and do tag me, Ashraf Ganda, as well. Right, let's get into another issue. You know, when we talk about inquiries, this one is hugely significant, right? The KwaZulu-Natal High Court in Pietermaritzburg has ruled that the death of the ANC stalwart chief Albert Luthuli was a murder, overturning the decades-old finding that it was an accident. So let's find out what really happened, the events leading up to this ruling or judgment. Non Klakanipo Magwaza, the SABC News reporter, has been covering the story. Appreciate you connecting with us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and to the listeners at home.
Okay, so this is a verdict of huge significance. Tell us more.
It is indeed, Ashraf. When we were in court, the Judge Nompumelelo Khateli went over all the evidence that was presented before court before she gave out her ruling. And when she did give out her ruling, she did the ruling that was made by Magistrate C.I. Boston in she is ruling is because it's clear that back then there was no proper investigation that was done into the cause of Chief Albert Luthuli's death. And she did say that there were so many inconsistencies in the evidence that was provided. And looking at the evidence that was provided and the simulations that were given and provided before court with regards to what happened back then, she can see that there are a huge number of inconsistencies, and there was a cover-up by the authorities back then, the police as well as the employees of the railway station at the time. And she is saying that there was a huge cover-up of Luthuli's, and she also said that looking at the simulation, Luthuli's body should have been dismembered if he was run over by a train. But his body was intact, his clothes were intact. And when he was still alive when he was taken to the Stanger Hospital, and she believes that it was then that those who wanted to cover up and make it seem as if it was an accident I'm sorry, how can I put this? It was then that they completed the job in trying to murder him because he died in hospital, not at the train on the railway line.
So if that's the case now, who then is, well, let me put it this way. I mean, what power does this verdict hold, right? Who does one hold accountable then?
Because everyone that should be held accountable or liable who are involved back then, they all passed away. But when you to the chairperson of the Luthuli Museum, also avoid the same thing, saying it was only those who are accountable or who have all passed away. They can still hold the institutions that were involved liable. You are talking about your African Police Service, Railway, or Health as well as the Justice Department, because the judge also mentioned those departments saying that they have to account for what happened back then.
Okay, and so that means, well, it does mean that nobody can be held liable in terms of actual action taken against them. But in terms of your understanding of the impact of this ruling, I mean, that has huge political impact, right?
Very huge political impact. We spoke to the family afterwards. They were very elated, saying that this ruling actually vindicated their thinking of what they've always thought. Their grandfather, Chief Albert Luthuli, did not die because of an accident, was actually murdered. Now they have to go through and the ruling. However, what they are going to advocate for is for his change, because all the curriculum, in all the history, it said truly was a great train, train accident. So now they want all this to change, put down in history as a murder that Luthuli was actually murdered by
Was there? I mean, you did say whoever was implicated have passed on, but this sounds rather bizarre. Was there anybody from their side, family members, at the verdict today? And if so, did they say anything?
No, there wasn't anyone
No
from
surprise. No surprises there. Yeah.
from their side.
Okay. Let's leave it at that. Accepting. What happens next? I mean, in terms of the processes, the procedures now.
So far, Ashraf, we did pose those questions. They're saying that they're still going to look at the rulings of or the judgment or the ruling from Judge Nompumelelo, and we'll take it from
Hmm. Just to give us some background to end with, right? Because the obvious thing from a listener point of view is like, what took this so long? Can you offer us an insight into how did this allow itself to be dragged on for so many years?
You remember, Ashraf, that the first inquest was ruled out as an accident. So the family has been petitioning the government to reopen the inquest and look into what actually what they at the time were thought believed that Ubuntuli was actually murdered. So they have been petitioning the government to reopen the inquest, and finally, the Justice Minister, Mr. Lamola, did say that there must be an inquest to Luthuli case. And taking it from there, they had to look and investigate who's alive, who will be coming to court to testify. In this case, no one was still alive to come before court and testify. So they had to do all the simulation and relive what actually happened during the 1967. And remember, Ashraf, that was a witness, Umfeni Mdandwa, who is apparently still missing, who was very young at the time. So his testimony, he saw police as well as the railway employees shouting Luthuli. However, because at the time he was very young, the straight after Luthuli crossing. So the judge also said, put it out there to the Department of Justice, saying that they have to open up an investigation and find out what actually happened to the witness in Mumbai.
Okay, that's where we're going to leave it. A fascinating, but an important judgment, but a very disturbing one at that. Appreciate your time on this very, very politically a critical decision, a long debated, long contested, but now confirmation from the KwaZulu-Natal High Court. They've ruled now that the death of the ANC stalwart chief Albert Luthuli was a murder, where it overturns the decades-old finding that it was an accident. Thanks for your time. That's Nonhlakanipo Magwaza, the SBC news reporter, covering that story.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. all on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM. SAFM.
Okay, it's certainly been a busy day on many fronts indeed. Let's now move on to other issues with regard to politics, right? Now, the Deputy President is Paul Mashatile, and he's been answering oral questions in the National Assembly. Let's have a listen.
Of asset attachment by ESCOM with irregular expenditure escalating to 13 billion. Does the Deputy President agree that meaningful turnaround strategies depend on effective and competent leadership within constructive coalitions as demonstrated by Dr. Nasipi Moya and the current multi-party coalition in Tshwane?
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker, and thank you to Honorable Ngobeni for the question. Yes, I think Honorable Nasipi Moya should be supported as she's fixing that city that was messed up by the DA. She really has my support. Yes. You know, the problem is that some of us, particularly the DA, we don't want to accept when our members are messing up. Please just accept that no, in Tshwane, no, you failed. Because once you accept that, you'll be able to put better people. But the problem is that the DA continue to protect somebody who's failing them. So I support Dr. Nasipi Moya, fix the city of Tshwane, so that DA can learn something from others as well. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, Deputy Speaker.
The next supplement, Honorable Lonzi, what is your point of order?
Oh, thank you, Deputy Speaker. No, I just wanted to remind, I think the President forgot MMC Obakeng and MMC Chekofatso in the city of Tshwane. Thank you, Speaker.
Honorable Member, that is not a point of order. We will proceed, and the next question is asked by the Honorable Molefe.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy President, you're correct that the debt of the municipalities to ESCOM will increase from 102 billion to 300 billion. But the reality is it's not just a management problem. Economic growth is 1%, inflation is at about 3.4%. Now they want to revise it to 3%, the target. And unemployment is at 40%, and increases in wages are at about 8%. But electricity tariffs are increasing at close to 20%. So electricity is increasing faster than inflation, faster than increases in wages, and also way faster than inflation. So people can't afford electricity. So what this results in is that every year the ESCOM comes and asks for a write-off. And in turn, the municipalities ask for write-off. In turn, ESCOM also asks for write-off. So my question is, what kind of debt management strategy, or what is the basis of the philosophical?
Honorable Member, your time has expired.
What debt management strategy is behind all of this mess? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I was already reading his mind of what you want to ask me. The proper debt management strategy is that must ensure affordability. It's something that we're discussing with the Minister of Electricity recently, that sometimes as South Africa, we've priced ourselves off the market You have seen with Honorable Molefe with the smelters. For instance, we lost a lot of smelters because of the price of electricity. To other countries and so on. Now they are coming back because we are managing the price of electricity down. And the reason why that is so is because of the success of generation. Many of our power stations are coming on board now and so on. So you are quite right that electricity in South Africa is expensive. And the way we must do it is to ensure that we generate enough to ensure that we can keep the prices affordable. I can't say you can keep it down, but there is enough effort from national government to ensure that we make it affordable to our people, but to industry as well. Because when electricity is expensive for the industry, they leave and go to other destinations. So it's something that we are quite conscious of to ensure that we keep tariffs affordable to South Africans by generating enough and making sure that the power stations are working and so on, so that people don't leave and go to other destinations. But I take your point that we must continue to look at this, the price of electricity. Yeah. There's another howler next to me making a good point.
Honourable members, honourable members, may I also remind you that we do not have interpersonal discussions. Please speak through the chair. Deputy President, have you concluded?
Yes, I've concluded to say that industry needs affordable electricity, household needs affordable electricity. If we continue to generate, I mean, the good news is that the energy availability factor is quite at a good level. I'm sure you've heard the Minister of Electricity say for the first time we're hovering about 70% of electricity availability. So we are in a good space to be able to ensure that we provide affordable electricity across the board to industry, to households, to the smelters, and to everybody. And that's how we can grow the economy as well. And as long as the economy grows and grows faster, you can keep the price of electricity affordable. Not an easy thing, but we are trying our best. Thank you, Honorable
The
Deputy.
last supplementary question, Honourable Molefe, is it a point of order because you cannot now go into a debate with the Deputy President?
No, I'm not going into a debate. I'm just saying, I think the Deputy President missed my question because my question really was about the strategy to manage these write-offs and the debt that accumulates as a result of this pricing. I agree with him that we've got a problem of pricing, and he's just repeated that we have a problem of pricing. But what is the strategy to get out of the debt write-offs?
Honourable Member, I will allow the Deputy President, we have allowed it earlier, that a question be answered. Afterwards, Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Honorable Molefe, it's really an ESCOM management tool, so to speak. It's very difficult to say to them whether you do away with write-offs or not. They look at the clientele and they make deals. For instance, when I was speaking about some of the municipalities earlier, I did indicate that in some of them they said, okay, we will write off if you settle this or if you stick to this. It's a strategy for them because you know you can't beat a dead horse. It won't wake up. So ESCOM sometimes decide that here it doesn't matter what we do, we won't get the money. But if we write off, the dead horse will wake up. It can now afford, going forward. But if you want to deal with the backlog, it won't wake up. It's dead. So, but it's their strategy. I'm just thinking aloud. I'm not sure what they are thinking as Eskom, but I can say that they're not taking only that strategy of write-off. In some instances, they insist. That's why they came with this DAA, where they enter into agreements with municipalities, and it is working. So it's a multi-pronged approach that they are using. Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Mlif.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Kwankwa. Honorable Kwankwa, are you online? Please unmute.
Speaker, sorry, they muted me. Sorry, I was muted. I muted. Yes, Deputy President, going back to the distribution agency agreements that you spoke about, which are intended to manage revenue directly in defaulting municipalities, we are of the view that this does not address the underlying root causes of the failures of poor municipalities, in particular, to meet their financial obligations towards Eskom. For instance, as already, I think you've highlighted that the National Treasury's Municipal Debt Relief Program launched in 2023 to address the cycle of municipal debt to Eskom, which allowed for the write-off of historic arrears provided municipalities complied with strict payment conditions. It has been reported as of March that 63 out of 71 municipalities remain in arrears in their current accounts. And most of these municipalities, including Raymond Mhlaba, are able to collect sufficient revenue.
Okay, we're going to just hold that, and if we can, we may dip back into that if the opportunity arises. But we'll take your calls in a few minutes. We'll have Channel Africa's collaboration with us on the G20 update coming up shortly as well. Right now, let's get the news. It's 4 o'clock.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the top stories, accused in AKA's murder withdraw extradition appeal, and Ramaphosa faces mounting pressure to reduce his cabinet. For SAFM News, I'm Ondalambana, and a very good afternoon. The two suspects arrested in connection with the murder of South African musician Kenan, aka Forbes, and his friend Tibelo Mutswane have withdrawn their appeal against extradition from the Kingdom of Eswatini. In a statement, the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development says it has received a notice from the National Directorate for Public Prosecutions confirming the withdrawal from the Kingdom of Eswatini's authorities. Vusi Twala reports.
AKA and his friend Tibelo killed in 3 arrested for being brother Kabong Musi Dom Van Court in the demand suspect communicate Africa the two will join the state Busipala with it news in Bombela.
The Madlanga Commission has played an audio recording of Vusumuzi Kat Matlala on the day of his arrest this year, conversing with witness C about his cancelled SAPS tender. Matlala's 360 million rand SAPS tender was cancelled when Police Minister Senzo Mchunu came into office after it was flagged for irregularities. In the recording, Matlala can be heard telling witness C that he had written to Brown Mokhozi about an affidavit he made with the High Court where he would implicate Minister Senzo Mchunu. Witness C elaborates.
And also that he was going to implicate the minister because this criminality, because the minister, after he had refused to open a case against the team or the police, and the minister cancelled his contract with the SAPS. He has instructed General Falima Singule to cancel the contract.
Pressure is mounting on President Cyril Ramaphosa to trim his cabinet and do away with deputy ministers. This follows revelations that 2 deputy police ministers had gone for over a year without any specific responsibilities delegated to them. This week, Deputy Police Minister Kasal Matale told the ad hoc committee in Parliament that suspended Police Minister Senzo Mchunu had not delegated duties to him and his counterpart Poli Bushielo. Some political parties and activists have criticized the establishment of some deputy ministers' positions as a waste of taxpayers' money. Dennis Bloom is from the Activists and Citizens Forum.
I have said many a times that the country doesn't need deputy ministers. I want to repeat that I don't even know some of these deputy ministers and what they are doing. Activists and Citizens Forum, President Cyril Ramaphosa, to remove deputy ministers because they are just a burden to the taxpayers of this country. They no value at all.
French prosecutors say 5 new suspects have been arrested overnight in connection with the audacious daylight heist at the world-famous Louvre Museum in Paris. Yesterday, officials said the 2 other men arrested at the weekend had partially confessed to their involvement. The BBC's Hugh Scofield has the details.
One of the 5 arrested is also believed to have been a member of the gang, presumably therefore one of the 4 who stayed down at street level and helped with the getaway. The other 4 men, though, we don't know who they are or what their connection is. All that has come out from the prosecutor's office is that police and investigators hope that these 4 will be able to shed light on what happened and how it happened and so on.
Recapping the top story, the 2 suspects arrested in connection with the murder of South African musician Keenan aka Forbes and his friend Tibelo Mtswane have withdrawn their appeal against extradition from the Kingdom of Eswatini. I'm on Dilambana for SAFM News Headlines at 4:30.
In sports this hour, Sundowns hit with blow ahead of Pirates clash and Vox 7's Legends launches Cape Town youth event. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in Johannesburg is slow moving towards Boysons. The N12 eastbound in Germiston has a stationary truck after Edenville Road exit, and Eskom Pahleli Drive northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Mood Street. In KZN, the N2 northbound has a crash before the M41 Gateway exit and Dumgeni Road westbound, slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the N2 inbound is where a crash is reported after Robert Sobukwe, queuing traffic in both ways. On the N1 inbound, there's a crash at the N7 highway, and Main Road northbound is slow moving through Muizenberg. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Don't miss your chance to shape the future. The Limpopo Investment Conference 2025, Limpopo Rising, Africa's new investment frontier. Your gateway to unparalleled opportunities from October 30 and 31st in Polokwane. Seize the groundbreaking prospects in mining, agriculture, tourism, and green energy. Connect with global visionaries and investors driving Africa's economic boom. Limpopo's wealth is waiting. Be part of the rise. Join the conversation on lic.lcxonline.co.za. Invest in Limpopo. Invest in success.
This season, make Christmas magic together with Spar and Super Savings. Like 750-gram Nola mayonnaise for $36.99 plus 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile, or 400-gram Black Cat peanut butter, also $36.99 plus 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Prices valid 21 October to 9 November 2025. While stocks last, T's and C's apply.
It all starts with advice from FNB Private. Because the perfect overseas trip starts with planning. Save and spend in multiple currencies with your FNB Global account and lock in exchange rates. Enjoy up to 40% off flights with eBucks Travel and order Forex on the FNB app delivered to you at no extra cost. Your adventure awaits. Unlock invaluable with FNB Private. Help changes everything. FNB, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized FSP and credit provider. TC's earn rules and limits apply.
At Auto in General, we understand your business is built on more than just vehicles. It's your stock, tools and equipment, and the premises where you work. Auto & General Business Insurance is designed for businesses like yours, protecting your assets against fire, theft, storms, and other unexpected events. To protect your livelihood, visit autogen.co.za and get an obligation-free business insurance quote. Auto & General, never not there. Auto & General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
The Expresso Morning Show has been nominated in 5 categories in the 3rd Annual National Film and Television Awards South Africa.
It all happens on Saturday, the 22nd of November 2025 at the South African State Theatre in Pretoria. And public voting is open from the 13th of October to the 20th of November at midday.
So visit nationalfilmacademy.com, register and vote for Expresso Morning Show in all 5 categories.
Then, of course, catch us weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. right here on S3.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay, around quarter past 4, in fact, we'll cross to Channel Africa for the weekly G20 update. In the meantime, I'm going to take some of your comments. Here's one. This Luthuli murder ruling shows us state capture isn't a new phenomenon, and judges being free of consequences even when deliberate. We shall exclaim and life continues, but mark my words, one day is one day. Right? One day is one day. Let's get more one day is one day comments. What about Kat Matlala?
Hey, Ashraf, brother, let us be honest, brother. Ashraf, let's make sure that Kat Matlala not coming out there in prison. Because these guys of these, they use Kat Matlala, even this minister, they use Kat Matlala. So now, what I wish, what I want, these guys, they must escort Kat Matlala from the prison. Come to us, to the head commissioner, and tell us the truth. Because this minister, they are not telling us the truth. They just talking this minister. But I know if Kat Matlala come to this commission, he will tell us the truth, Kat Matlala. Thank you very much from the state, brother.
Okay, everybody waiting for Kat Matlala. I hear that. I'm sure you do too, right? Here's another.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Lennon Khwedi here. In its conspectus, I might say that I am flabbergasted because it has come clear to me that this country, it was true that when they say it's been run by mafias and criminals and drug cartels, it is true. But all I have now and all I'm thinking now is that all of these criminals, they should take into task and be locked in jail and recoup all this money that they've been suffering and running around with it in our country.
Okay, I think you've been very clear about what you feel about it. What do others feel?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. After hearing the voice note of Matlala saying what he said about the suspended police minister, that's what I can say. But if I was the president, I would take the minister off suspension and fire him immediately and prepare yellow overalls for him because he lied and he's still continuing to lie. They must go to jail.
They must go to jail. And it's, I mean, I sense I probably said this before, the utter desperation of people listening in terms of what they expect to come out of this.
Afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. It's Shata Ko Mokhalong Omolech in Limpopo. I think Madlanga Commission is the one, the questions and the witnesses, that is the real commission. The ad hoc committee, actually, it's a political circus, it's a circus, that the coach of Orlando Pirates is playing, is talking about,
Okay, got that too. And here's one. I mean, there's been a statement released by the former National Police Commissioner Ria Piecha. She says, on the 30th of October, I was stunned. This is now a written statement to the Madlanga Commission, right? On the 30th of October 2025, I was stunned to hear testimony by witness C suggesting on the 14th of May 2025, during the arrest of Mr. Vusi Musi Kat Matlala, the said Vusi Musi Kat Matlala claimed to have come from the residence of Miss Mangwashi Victoria Piecha, as we know, Ria Piecha says, right? I categorically and emphatically deny that Mr. Matlala was ever present at my home on that date or at any other time. The assertion made by witness C is entirely false, and I reject it in its entirety. I hereby request a formal opportunity to challenge this testimony through the appropriate legal or procedural channels. For the record, I have never met Mr. Matlala in her life. Got that? And it says her. I make note of that, but maybe just a typo. I have never met Mr. Matlala in her life. The claim is a fabrication and must be addressed with urgency. I respectfully request immediate guidance on the process required to formally dispute and refute these allegations. This comes, of course, from Ria Piecha. So who says things are not moving with regard to these various commissions we've been having? Let's pick up another comment from you regarding state capture.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Speaking to Switzer in Durban. You know, Ashraf, it's obvious. Transpired as a Zondo Commission still happening in this commission of Madlanga Commission. You know, our country is captured by black people now. And the Guptas captured the states. Even these people, they were captured the states, but there was nobody who want to reveal them together with their Guptas. But what transpired in Zondo Commission is happening. The black people, and I don't understand why our government doesn't see or foresee things before happening. Thank you.
Okay, interesting. I mean, would you have to say, black or white, or simply say government or the people that run the show, no matter who they may be? Just think about that. But let's now do this. We have this weekly update in the build-up to G20.
G20 in Africa, exclusive to Channel Africa and SAFM, championing Africa through solidarity, equality, and sustainability.
It is exactly 16 minutes after 4 p.m. Central African time. A very good afternoon to you if you just joined us. Welcome to what we bring you every single Thursday afternoon. That is a razor-sharp focus on the upcoming G20 summit. I'm Tami Ngubeni on Africa in Business on Channel Africa, along with Ashraf Gada on SFM with the National Pulse. Good to be chatting with you once again, Ashraf, as we get ready to host our guest this afternoon and really focus on the role of civil society organizations. Now, we know that the Africa CSO G20 Climate, Energy and Sustainable Finance Network, which is the ACG20, they've highlighted some rather concerning outcomes of the second Global Tipping Points report. Now, what this report says is that the world has already breached the first major climate tipping point. And what is that? It's the widespread mortality of warm water coral reefs. It also highlights the need for transformative climate justice as well as financial delivery from the world's wealthiest nations, particularly the G20. And the question is, what are the world's largest nations going to do about the increased threat to climate stability, Ashraf?
Well, that conversation has been going on for, I think, about 10 years, maybe even longer, when we had COP17 here in South Africa. So it's been a long time ago. But the countdown, not just to the next guest, but certainly to G20, is now effectively days away, like just about 3 weeks, I think it is. So let's talk about that. The ACG20 has therefore called for immediate action and the acceleration of a people-centered JET, which is just energy transition. That phrase, just energy, has also been debated for quite a while. They've also urged G20 member countries to ensure these transitions are equitable and are not exploitative. So what does all this mean? Let's find out more. We joined on the line by Kuda Majonjo, a Just Transition Advisor at PowerShift Africa, which is one of the bodies that makes up the Africa CSO G20. It's all rather confusing. I get that. The G20 Climate, Energy, and Sustainable Finance Network that makes up ACG 20. So that first things first, much appreciate your time, Kuda. Firstly, so we've touched on it already. There's been this 20 years G20 cycle, right? So what do you feel with regard specifically around climate change and climate finance? To what degree has G20 lived up to commitments made within the various G20 events and then actual action thereafter?
Thanks for having me, first of all, and my apologies for the tongue twister that is our name. ACG20 is just perfect. And just responding to your question, I think that's the most shocking part about this is that it's still taking us 20 years for us to get adequate climate financing, and we were hoping that with the G20 being hosted in South Africa, of course, with the rest of the African continent, there will be a change of dynamics in terms of seriousness around the importance of climate financing, but that has not come through. We're still relying essentially on private sector to lead the way instead of getting quality public financing from the global north countries, where we do not have quite substantial funding and amounts to actually support the globe in this transition, but they're not willing to do that. And I mean, it goes against the whole principle of the polluter pays, right? We know that the main reason most of the global north is developed is because they used all these things that we now know that are very detrimental to our health, coal, oil, and gas. They use those to develop themselves, but they're now not willing to support in terms of mitigation as well as adaptation to this new reality that we're now living under.
And I'd like to hop in here, Kuda, and pick up on what you've mentioned. The clear challenge that Africa faces in having the wealthier countries contribute towards climate rehabilitation. You speak about the polluter pays principle. Is it actually being put in place? Is it being actioned? And what is it that you are expecting as the continent when it comes to delivering fair and adequate climate finance from the G20, considering all the challenges that you've just highlighted and the inequality on the continent?
So I think, first of all, we have to put it into a bigger context. G20 is not the only fora where we meet as countries in the globe, right? The other one is, of course, the COP process. And as we know, this year is going to be held in Brazil. But G20 was held in Brazil last year before it came to South Africa. And in that conversation, there was clarity over the need to combine basically the understandings in the COP process as well as the G20 process as to what can be done with climate financing. And that's why the COP last year actually in Baku became so important, because that was the finance COP. But what ended up happening is that we got the elections of Donald Trump into the USA presidency, and the global north all of a sudden went quiet about potential financing that they were expecting. So climate finance is not detached from the rest of what's happening with our geopolitics. I listen to your show quite a lot, and I know that you guys have spoken quite a lot around the tariffs, how that's affected South Africa, Africa, and the world, right? And we're seeing this in the climate financing space. Within the G20 space, we are basically seeing USA, first of all, not coming to meetings, and secondly, they don't want the mention of the word climate. So imagine trying to do a negotiation around climate finance and you're not allowed to mention the word climate. It's like a dirty word, which is ironic because it's not supposed to be a dirty word in any way. So that's the challenge we have here, that the geopolitics of the world, primarily USA, have totally flipped the script in terms of the prioritization of this. Unfortunately, we're not seeing, for example, Europe trying to stand up against the USA. So what you then have, you're seeing the global south, and that's Latin America, that's India, really trying to keep this momentum alive to say that we'll not stop talking about this, even though you're uncomfortable about it. So unfortunately, that's the situation we're in. So we're facing a situation, and I think it's sad that G20 South Africa is basically trying to deal with protecting what has already been decided on and not getting into those nitty-gritties as to how much actually will be going through the bank.
All right, let me then ask you this, right? So, in terms of financial support from the G20 to Africa's just energy transition, here's the question. To what degree is G20 able to support it? And have they done so? And what do you think, what are your expectations for that to happen now?
So I'll answer the last question first. G20 can definitely do the support, especially around just energy transition. Of course, in South Africa, as you mentioned earlier, the JET idea, the just energy transition idea, has been there for quite a while now, and specifically focusing, of course, in the coal region of Mpumalanga and what that could mean in terms of transitioning a lot of workers and livelihood that rely big time, right, on the coal-powered infrastructure in that province. So it was not as if the JET idea came from nowhere. We did get commitments from Europe, from USA, prior to say, listen, we can give you quite a couple of billion for this to happen. But what has happened is that we were expecting it to be public financing. What they're now tabling on the board is that we want this to be private finance led. And the danger of private financing is that unless it is bankable, and God knows what that means, it always changes, it depends on the project, right? So unless it is bankable and unless they're making a good return on investment, they're not willing to fund it. So that's the challenge we're having here. They'll tell you that the financing is there, but it's from private financing. But private financing will then tell you that it is not bankable to basically support the coal miner in Mpumalanga to reskill themselves, being a coal miner to, for example, being a solar technician. So that's the danger that we're currently having, that we are not essentially having public financing, which goes to the basic core needs of this transition, being the main source of financing, and we end up with the danger of not actually receiving the results. And I'll finish on this point. That JETP that South Africa signed up to, that was supposed to be a hallmark of the G20 process over the last couple of years, about 500 million USD has come through, but it's all been loan backed. So they've all been loans, no grants. And that's basically the danger of what we're having here, that the G20 process that could potentially have done the right things is currently not doing that.
And with that challenge that you're facing now, I'm actually just looking at the statistics now, as far as the typical financing models that are being used for JET purposes, the loans, whether they're concessional or commercial, those are the most common ones. And the majority of the JET deals are structured in this way. Then there are grants, the equity investments, and then guarantees and risk instruments. What is it that you're going to do or can do to ensure that the majority of these loans or this grants or this financing does not come in the form of loans? Because what that then does, it worsens Africa's debt crisis.
Yes, and I think that's what we are doing as ACG20, as the coalition of over 80 civil society organizations, to say that effectively loan money is just as bad as no money. So what can we do as an alternative? One of the big ideas that have been coming through is to basically argue, what can we do for ourselves as we wait for the change of the geopolitics? So there is quite a substantial amount of public financing that's possible from the continent. Some research from some of our partners consider that there are about $2 trillion in public pension funds that is available. My apologies, I'm Zimbabwean, but I think in South Africa, you call it the Public Investment Fund, if I'm not mistaken. And they suggest that about $400 million is available in that pot. So the idea then is that instead of financing malls, financing nice hotels that have an adequate return on investment, how can we support the energy transition? We believe that these pension funds have the obligation to support those people who are going to rely on the funds from their pension, but they also need a world to live in, right? And that's the danger of this tipping point report that we got. We're actually getting the results now, earlier than expected, that the world is changing. So we keep saying we're saving money for retirement, but what happens when your retirement is actually not set in stone and becomes even more expensive? The best way to tackle this is to use the funds that are actually there on the continent and to actually direct them to ensure that they're focusing in as much as possible on financing the energy transition in the things that we know from the South African government, from the G20 process, need to be financed.
Okay, well, to end with, what about the leveraging power? What is the leveraging power of African countries or African governments with regard to both G20 and now what is called COP30, and how can they increase that leverage?
That's such a great point, and I'm glad that you spoke about that, because that's what I actually work on, which is critical minerals. And I think this has been a big conversation. I think the common terminology is about rare earths and minerals and the likes. And what we have on the continent is about 30% of those critical minerals. And in some cases, some particular ones, such as cobalt, such as bauxite, we have as much as 60 to 80% of it. And that is our leverage. And that is why we think that the G20 being in South Africa with Africa on board, we need to get that negotiating power to say that we will not basically export our chrome or manganese from South Africa to the United States if you don't give us quality climate financing. Recently, just yesterday, we saw China basically standing tall against USA and saying you won't get a single rare earth mineral unless you change your trade tariffs back. And they got what they wanted. They got a concession. We need through this G20 process, which is all what it's about, right? It's a negotiation. We need the African countries who do have these minerals to stand with South Africa and basically say that unless we get the quality climate financing, you will not getting any single ore of these critical minerals. Unfortunately, we've not done enough of that, but it's an ongoing process. And I think at least we're now getting this idea that we do have leverage and we have something to offer to the world that we can hold back until we get what we need.
Kuda Jojo, thank you so much for that update on the CSO G20 Climate, Energy and Sustainable Finance Network. Clearly a lot of work that needs to be done. And you came up with some, really important aspects that are impacting the manner of negotiation and the geopolitics with America really being able to strong arm a lot of the African countries. But we'll see what the results are that you'll get from the G20 and if we'll be talking, a different story moving forward after the G20. We thank you for your time, sir.
You.
Thank you. That's Kuda Manjonjo, a Just Transition Advisor at PowerShift Africa, one of the bodies that make up the Africa CSO G20 Climate and Sustainable Finance Network. That is the ACG20. Ashraf Garda, looking forward to our G20 feature once again next week.
Yeah, and looking forward to G20 proper because that's now very imminent, and then the impact of all of that. So, Tommy, thanks for your time. And yes, we'll connect, next week, a week from now. This, of course, is the National Pulse. What about your thoughts on that? I think it's a very important position in terms of the leveraging power of African countries in negotiating issues around energy and just transition in the build-up to G20 and beyond. How much leverage do they really have? I'd like to hear from you. One thing I know, you have leverage around the Madlanga Commission because you have a voice and you are certainly exercising that voice every single day. For now, let's get to the news headlines. It's 4:30. Here's Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has broken his silence on the perjury charges laid against him by National Coloured Congress MP Fadil Adams. The two suspects arrested in connection with the murder of South African musician Keenan aka Forbes and his friend Tebelo Mtwane have withdrawn their appeal against extradition from the Kingdom of Eswatini, and the Department of International Relations and Cooperation has condemned the alleged killings of hundreds of civilians in Sudan's Darfur region, describing these acts as genocidal. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 northbound in Bedfordview is slow moving on the link to the N12 east at Gilulis interchange. In Midrand, Allendale Road eastbound has delays towards Dane Road, and the N1 northbound has a crash at New Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound has a fatal crash reported at Hammersdale, causing traffic to be stacked. The N3 westbound has a crash reported before Cliffdale, and on the N2 northbound, a crash before the M41 gateway exit. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound queuing towards the N2 highway, the M3 southbound is slow moving towards Rhodes Drive, and Victoria Road outbound slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Domin Khapele.
Okay, let's talk local football. Mamelodi Sundowns.
Yeah, Mamelodi Sundowns have been dealt with a blow with Tebogo Mokoena ruled out of Saturday's clash against Orlando Pirates due to suspension. The midfielder picked up his fourth yellow card in the 121st minute in Sundowns' calling knockout defeat to Marimo Gallants. And here's Sundowns coach Miguel Cardoso.
Very coincident that in the last minute of the match he gets a yellow card when we're going to play Pirates after. I believe in coincidence. I just hope that the ones that we're going to feature or put to play are on the height of him. I think that it's clear for everybody that Tebogo had a very difficult moment of his personal life due to the situation that he had to deal with. no one would like to keep his name, despite he had no responsibility, but associated with the situation that could attach the country for history. And until his last day of life, he'd be associated with something negative. I think that after the qualification of Bafana Bafana for the World Cup, it's clear that Tebogo is another man. And we feel so happy because of that. So I think it's even a human question that was on the table, and it was clear for everybody that Tebogo was not in the best place. And but now we feel him happy, we feel him communicating, we feel him smiling. And I believe that Best Mokwena will come in the next matches again to help us, because he's a leader also for us. He's an important player, someone we like him as too much as a boy, he's a father of a family also. So he was for sure not happy man in the last rounds.
Well, tickets to that Betway Premiership clash at Loftus Versfeld are officially sold out. In terms of cricket, Proteas women bowler Marizanne Kapp says that the team today is watching the semi-final between Australia and India with keen interest.
Look, I was a bit nervous coming here. It probably wasn't a wicket that suited our style of play with the ball and the bat. But look, ultimately, I feel like we probably played one of our best World Cup matches today. Look, we've been saying for a couple of years now, I would love to play India in a final. Especially, I feel like when I play in India, even though the crowd is against me, it feels like they're shouting for me. So I love the crowds.
So there you have it, Ashraf. I did ask which one would I personally want to see South Africa go up against in the final. Marizanne Kapp wants India.
Because the more they're against it, the more they're for. Something along that line.
Something like
Okay,
that.
no doubt.
Something like that. Let's keep you up to date with the action between Australia and India. Now, India are on 70 for 2 after 11 overs. They need 269 runs in 35 overs to win and advance to the final. Then in basketball, Dallas Mavericks guard Brandon Williams has apologized for being a distraction. This is after he was arrested on a charge of marijuana possession. Williams missed 2 Dallas games after less than 2 ounces of marijuana, which is illegal for recreational use in the state of Texas, where they were found in his luggage. The 25-year-old scored 20 points and 7 rebounds from the bench when he returned to the Mavericks' 107-105 win against the Indiana Pacers at the American Airlines Center. In terms of rugby, Cape Town's young rugby talent will take center stage on the 7th to the 8th of November when the Senatla Sevens tournament kicks off at the Connect NTK Rugby Club in Parow, hosted in partnership with Rugby Star Sabelo Senatla and the Connect Academy. The event will see under 11s, under 13s, 15s, and 17 boys and under 18 girls from community teams across Cape Town and the wider region compete for glory over 2 thrilling days. Now, the tournament is spearheaded by Senatla, who is a celebrated Sevens rugby star and recording a record-setting try scorer. In terms of tennis, 7th seed Lorenzo Musetti lost 3-6, 6-3, and 6-1 to Lorenzo Sonego in the round of 32 of the Paris Masters. Musetti appeared to be in control of the match after winning the first set, but faded out after Sonego managed to bring the match to a decider, losing serve 4 times. And up next for Sonego, he'll play Daniil Medvedev, the 2020 champion and 2021 runners-up. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour.
Okay, and then update on that cricket semi-final with the winner playing South Africa on Sunday. In fact, before I go, here's something we need your response to.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and the listeners. What got my pulse going on this afternoon is that, like, who chooses the man of the match in soccer? The reason I'm asking is Chipre Zeze, the goalkeeper of my case, has won 7 man of the match titles since the Black Label Cup, and then that amounts to 700,000. I stand to be corrected. Thank you.
Okay.
It's actually the analysts and the commentators, but mostly the analysts are the ones that are choosing. And I'm saying this because that's actually what happens in the Hollywood Bet Super League also. So the analysts, they sit there and they actually get to see.
But I mean, are these analysts like journalist analysts, or they analysts, not reporters?
Working
so like an
on working
adjudication
on the
committee.
game, working on the particular game
Okay, all
specifically.
right.
Yeah. So they're the ones that are choosing. But I guess Chipazeze has been doing well. I mean, from the Pirates game, I think he had like 6 saves in the first half alone. So they tried to look at that particular player that had a match-defining performance in that whole match as a whole.
Okay, thanks for that. Clearing that up. Tumi, more sports and more clearing ups from the Tumi Commission coming up. Sports Commission, that is, in an hour.
The soundtrack of your life with Ernest Pillay.
They were more than just songs. They were the backdrop to your best days and the ones that change everything. The soundtrack of your life with me, Ernest Pillay, brings you iconic classics and hidden gems that spoke to your heart then and still do now. Whether you're driving, relaxing, or just remembering, let the music take you right back. The soundtrack of your life with Ernest Pillay. It's about your past, your story, and it's all right here on your favorite station, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 p.m.
This is SAFM.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Well, as far as the facts and figures go, it's all up to Makwe Masilela. Makwe, you've got news about Dis-Chem to start with.
Yes, Ashraf, the guys launched their new revamped loyalty program. A critical move for them, as we've seen that Mixed Up contribute 2.6% to their total sales, and they managed to open 17 retail pharmacy stores, making the retail pharmacies to be 302 to 44 retail baby stores. Group revenue up 8.7%, profit aside and earnings per share up 9%. That's like dividend per share, and the guys expect consumers to remain constrained. And Ashraf, as expected, the U.S. Central Bank extended their benchmark rate by 25 basis points last night, marking their second in a row reduction. But the signaled uncertainty about further easing. We were told that December rate cut is far from being a foregone conclusion. Bank of Japan, just like the European Central Bank, as expected, left their rate unchanged. And the much-awaited meeting between the Chinese and the U.S. president meeting underwhelmed investors as it marketed itself. No time to call it an amazing meeting. Traders view this as a technical truth rather than a long-term trade deal. And locally, our September producer price inflation rose to 2.3% compared with 2.1% in August, and that was below market expectations of 2.6%. And investors are now starting to ask whether heavy spending made by some companies on AI infrastructure will pay off. And some investors are rotating out of tech stocks, while traders not impressed with the US-China trade truce. Another key point is that OPEC Plus meeting is scheduled for the 2nd of November, where output increase will likely be announced. Brent crude is down 0.5% at $63 a barrel. Yellow metal supported by pullback in the dollar, although signs of progress in US-China trade talks kept pace in check. Which gold is up 2% at 4,011, platinum up 1.6% at 1,006, and it seems the bull market is slowing down. Global markets are mixed, but more on the negative, with the JSE down 0.7%, taken down by the industrials and financials. Rand fell to 0.6% against the dollar, 17.29, 22.76 against the pound, and 20.02 against the euro.
Right, thanks for that, Makwe Masilela. And a reminder, if that's the preview, then the real show comes up later on, where you get in-depth analysis for an hour on the markets with Jimmy Moyaha.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
So let's recap. I mean, today's Madlanga Commission ended earlier on 3:30. What actually happened today from the morning? What were the key highlights? What were the key moments? Remember, the key person has been Witness C, right? So with me is Sibatle Mota, SABC News reporter, who's been covering it. Sibatle, as always, thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and good afternoon to listeners.
Thank you. Right. So let's start with this. I mean, give it to us. What for you would be the key, bullet points of today's hearings?
I think what we can definitely take away from today's proceedings with Witness C's testimony is that relationship between Chet and General Cedric Mabuya. And what we have come to know is just their first encounter, which was in a farm inside Hammanskraal. And this is sort of where their relationship started. And anybody who's been following the proceedings extensively will know that this Mr. Jonathan is who's next Swazi is somebody that has managed to be part of the Big Five as well as the notorious taxi boss that is apparently known within Gauteng. And apparently this is where General Sheikh as well as Matala had their first encounter. And Sebefia approached Matala on that day saying that, now that the old man is gone, you take care of me. And this is where we start seeing, the relationship with obviously it seems like Mr. Matala is pouring money into General CBS. In general, yeah, basically protecting, protect Matala. And after the first encounter, this is when Matala apparently deposited a sum of, gave him rather, not deposited, but gave him a sum of 500,000 rand. Their relationship proceeded where he would even give him, 300,000 rand as token to fund Sebefia wedding, and even at once giving him over 2 million rand, to start this bed and breakfast business. So we are seeing that Ted Matlala is actually pouring so much money into Sebefia. But in witness his statements, it gets to a point where Matlala is confiding in witness as the after in telling him that he's not reaped rather benefit for all this money that's pumping in to Sebefia as well as Minister Sulu doing nothing for him because essentially he has been arrested, he has been promised that he'd be protected, but unfortunately he found himself waited behind bars and his peace have not been met.
And I mean, did he then reference the impact that it's had on his life?
Can you repeat that again?
The impact that it's had on his life in terms of the the happenings of the last few months.
Yes, definitely. I mean, witness C, right witness A and witness B have actually testified extensively Ashraf the impact, the sort of case has had on their life. And I witnessed even testifying saying that Ted Matlala used his influence to get the number two officers that were working on the case with witness C, and we know that as well as witness, using his influence to sort of compromise investigations and if investigations we have seen what less patrolmen tend to do, and that is signing down, their opponents or anybody who stand in their way. Hence why we've seen with the testimony of witness B and witness C, they are now constantly under 24-hour guard. They can't be alone. They have had to leave their families, go into hiding, they're now traveling groups. So this is a sort of emotional impact that investigating the life of Ted Matlala as well as people related to his had, even with witness C saying that his life now is a former shadow of his original life was like. So I think that is sort of like the emotional as well as the psychological impact that it has had on them investigating these notorious or alleged notorious cartel members.
Okay, so just before we end, then, I mean, what for you of the many pronouncements today, what for you would be the most, let's call it the most explosive revelation of the day?
I think for me, Ashraf, is just how easy it was for, our top policemen, especially be indeed with, these criminal cuts, either they were finding their lifestyles or whatever. But it was just how easy and how, they were able to operate and continue as if life was normal. I mean, we've seen this in the conversation that Mandela had with Sylvia, and it was intentional from Sylvia's side to actually say, what, since this old man is gone, you're going to take care of me, and I'm going to take care of you. And I mean, this was intentional. He knew what he was doing. But to top it all off, also, kind of having the assumption that him contributing to the presidential campaign of President also was shielded him from any investigation or any probe that may come his way. So he calling in for money and I keep very be involved in not getting it. So it's just for ministers. If so, of course, these are all allegations right now, and top police abroad to get engaged with criminals and therefore compromising very sensitive, investigations and information may essentially come into the police who are just their word.
All right, the commission adjourned relatively early today, 3:30. What happens next?
So right now, we are sitting down for tomorrow the whole, commission, but we are expecting our general, Kumali to come and continue. I mean, if you remember, he was among the first people who gave testimony at the Madam Commission, where he was linking all these people, which, your Ted Mattalas and the Brown of as well as some top police officials and, ministers. So we can expect testimony see how far that goes.
All right, let's leave it at that. Thanks for your time. I'm sure we will connect again, and the team here on the National Pulse, speaking to you sometime soon, probably next week. Sibatle Mota, SABC News reporter, covering the Madlanga Commission. Now, the good news is you've also been covering the Madlanga Commission. I'm talking about you as the listener, the audience, and you play a significant role in reflecting public opinion here on the National Pulse. I'll get to you in a moment.
This is Lungi on any other regular day.
This economy makes me post once a day. Who does that? Like, ew.
Now this is Lungi getting extra with the 20 gig summer deal for just 99 Rand.
I have so many gigs. I could even have a gig, guys. I'm going live every single day to me because get
Extra your summer. Get 20 gigs plus 2 months free YouTube Premium and 100 Vodabucks exclusively on the Vodapay app. T's and C's apply. Further together, Vodacom. SAFM Music. Good times, good memories.
I'm just like somebody.
Old school sounding so good. SAFM Music with you wherever you go.
You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM. SAFM.
Well, the question is what you say music to my ears, or what you've heard at the Madlanga Commission, is that music to your ears? Let's find out. I need to hear your thoughts. Chris in Durban, let's get your opinion. What's your point?
Thank you very much, Ashraf. Yeah, your question was what are my specific feelings about both the commissions?
Yeah.
Firstly, I must say the Madlanga Commission find it far more professional, organized, and in the decorum. You can see clearly there's respect. I find the ad hoc committee, whilst I find it very useful, because I'm following both very, very closely, some of those guys representing some political, I won't say who, so unprofessional. They don't come prepared. In fact, like they do because they have to be there because they're part of this commission, okay? But I think it's being a disservice to some of the political parties when it comes to election because it keep weakening the party brand. And I don't want to say which political parties they are. This is still in evidence for everyone to see. And I'm talking about the ad hoc committee here.
Okay, got that. You have made your point. Thanks for that, Chris. In Durban, right? There's more to come, and I need to hear it all. So let's get that.
All these things that are coming out from the commissioner will never be sorted out because the ANC is still the government. The best thing is to take the ANC government out of power, then everything will be sorted out. I think that was speaking in good shape.
Okay, got that. Thank you for that. Tetra, let's naturally lots of comment. Dominating is the Madlanga Commission.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and SAFM listeners. It's Robert KZN Mutu. Ashraf, I've got no words, honestly speaking. The evidence, the testimonies that are coming out from the Madlanga Commission A, B, and C, I would like to know what Kwanaze and Spia, to look them straight in the face and see how they feel after all the lies they came and told at the ad hoc committee. Thanks.
Okay, so would you write it off as complete lies, or are you saying those are allegations at this point in time? But of course, listening to them, yes, I think we all want to hear that.
Ashraf, good show as always, brother. Barananka here in Durban. I'm just curious to know what goes through the president's mind as he hears all of this stuff about his friend and his associate his ministers that don't do anything. I really wonder, really wonder.
Well, maybe we'll wonder when it's all over and we'll know because action would have to be taken some way or the other, isn't it? Can't have an ineffective machinery that's in charge of the country.
Hi, Ashraf. Even the Sunday World exposed the Nigerians cartels that are running 6 provinces. Yeah, they are based there in Joburg, in it's those suburbs that side. And, the intelligence gave Mpunu the report about those Nigerians, even their names. He knows Mpunu is a criminal. He didn't do anything. It's just now that he sent the report to the parliament about those Nigerians who are selling drugs, who are destroying South Africa with drugs.
All those Nigerians is what you say. I wonder what responses we'll get about that. Kandisa in Matlosana. Right, let's hear from you about Lesotho.
Yes, Afro, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good indeed. Yeah.
Right.
I know.
Look,
I'm making notes.
yes. Look, Afrash, I want to talk about this issue of Sanko. You know, it cannot be correct. Sanko is an alliance of ANC. If you have a problem, there are internal processes that you're supposed to follow. And why Sanko always, when they don't get position, they want to remove criminals, they want this one. Because who's somebody on the organization, you know, Masusi, I know you very well. I started in Sanko. You know, when you don't get position, yes, all of that the super was doing. You know, people are counting. You know, everybody knows the time that is happening in the country. Now, when it comes to people they are saying, we understand why they don't want to get out. You know, no, as members, we understand why. You see, something is being done to other people to harass other people. Now, if you can get this and you see only
Okay, so you're saying they're there to harass, and that's their job. And as agitators, Kandisa, thank you for that. If you agree with that, yes, Dito say lol, and then they're spelling my name AFRASH lol Afrash. Kandisa is back, lol, making reference to the fact that, of course, my name is spelled ASH, like Ash, RAF. Ashraf, but I don't correct it because, hey, listen, I get names wrong as well. Like, it really doesn't matter. I know exactly who he's talking to when he says Afrash. So, certainly, Kandisa is back, but his position about Sanko, I think, is, yeah, I mean, that's a huge issue. What about what's happening in Sudan? Oh, my goodness.
Good afternoon, National. Sudan is getting ugly with especially the Darfur province because a lot of killing and innocent people get shot in front of the camera and all that. It's a shock, really. It's a very painful what's going on in Darfur, Sudan. And I didn't know that also the Emirates, not Arab Emirates, involved really. Some machinery, I mean, destroying Sudan really. Because it has to do only the one to benefit, I mean, the Sudan really, the Emirates, but they're getting greedy, the Emirates. Because they're involved in that matter.
I think, you know, we need to, again, I mean, I understand there's been this role of some of the UAE playing some role in the instability in Sudan. I mean, yesterday we heard the hospital bombed up, lots of people dying. I mean, what is going on in that place? I mean, that entire country, and this is not to be confused with, you've got Sudan, and then you've got the fairly new southern Sudan. So this is Sudan, the northern part. And for a good number of years now, it's been destroyed. I mean, I know when I went to Cairo, they said like there's virtually nothing going on in Sudan in terms of financial institutions and banks. They all operate out of Cairo because that country has just collapsed. Tragic situation.
Ashraf, I've listened to the Madlanga Commission today and I am enraged. I am infuriated. I am just so angry. And, you know, one thing that stands out for me is that these things were done a long time ago. What do I mean by long time ago? I mean, when did this whole thing start? Mashala is hot now, driving a Rolls Royce. People are buying BMWs, Lamborghinis in one color, blue. Like the corruption is so rampant and so disgusting that they can't even decide on a color.
Mhm.
I am enraged.
Or maybe that color is like a uniform to say we do what we want. We can have any color we want as long as it's the same color, so that we all match up. It's a statement of sorts. I hear your enraged, your sense of being enraged, and I hear many people feeling the same way. What about that issue of the deputy ministers?
Good afternoon, Ashraf Marumu Maike. You know, I've been hearing about the cabinet, the bloated cabinet. What. I didn't really care about it. But after hearing Castle Matali, the state cap, not state cap chairman, the Matlanga Commission testifying there about their role as deputy ministers. It is clear. I think Action SA is right. We don't need deputy ministers because they don't even act in the absence of when the minister is absent. What are they doing then? So President must just get rid of them. But we know he was paying his brothers there. Thank you, Maroon.
I don't even know about the president's paying his brothers. I think we need to put this into perspective. First of all, there's a sense amongst many people that what is the role of deputy ministers? They're not official ministers. They're nowhere near as effective. They're not part of the executive effectively. So what is their role? Now that's point one. Number two, there was a clear intent from the president ahead of the last election that they're going to reduce the numbers of cabinet ministers as well because it's too bloated. What happens next? We have the GNU, and they all make deals. And in fact, not just was it not reduced, it was actually increased as this compromise. So in that case, it's not just one party because all the parties agreed to the increase because it suited their agenda that every party wanted to be represented. So you see, nobody said, hey, we don't want to be represented. At the end of the day, they wanted their people up there, not just as deputies, but as ministers as well. Well, that's the days of our lives, right? Okay, 5 o'clock, let's get to the news.
Thank you, Ashraf. Your top stories at this hour. Mkhwanazi comments on perjury charges laid against him, and DECO condemns killings in Sudan. Good afternoon. I am Chanduko Ligege. KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has broken his silence on the perjury charges laid against him by National Coloured Congress MP Fidel Adams. Mkhwanazi has accused Adams of using his position as MP to access classified information put before Parliament's Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence unlawfully. Adams is not a member of the committee. Mkhwanazi told the commission Adams handled that information recklessly. Speaking at the launch of a festive season safety plan in Durban, Mkhwanazi said he is not afraid to be prosecuted.
If there's any case open at the police station, anyone has got the right to open a case. Police must investigate, and if there's a crime committed and the police feels that they must take that into the courts, and the courts, if they decide to prosecute, they'll prosecute. I was never afraid to be prosecuted. I'm not going to be afraid to be prosecuted now. So if Mr. Adams, who I spoke about in that commission, feels that he must then use the strategy to threaten or intimidate, it's okay. I'm not afraid of that. We already understand which side of the law he is. We'll find each other at the right place. Let it happen. He must bring it on.
The Good Party in the city of Johannesburg has joined several other small parties in opposing to the overthrow of Mayor Dada Murero in a motion of no confidence to be tabled in the council. The motion is spearheaded by Al Jama and supported by UDM, ATM and HC under the banner of the minority governing parties. Councillor Matthew Cook.
If we change the mayor now, that would be 12 mayors within a very short period of time. It's just ridiculous. I think it's political grandstanding at its best. I think these parties have got squabbles within government, and that's something that we cannot stand for. We have to put the residents first. We have to bring about a stable government. We're seeing Moody's and agencies like that respond positively to that, positively to what's going on in the city. We're seeing developments in the inner city and changes in service delivery, but we know these things take time to turn around.
The two suspects arrested in connection with the murder of well-known South African musician Kenan Forbes, known as AKA, and his friend Tibelo Mutswane, have withdrawn their appeal against extradition from the Kingdom of Eswatini. In a statement, the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development says it has received a notice from the National Directorate for Public Prosecution confirming the withdrawal from the Kingdom of Eswatini's authorities. Vusitwala reports.
AKA and his friend Tebelo were shot and killed in Durban in 2023. Five suspects were arrested in connection in KwaZulu-Natal. The two brothers, Kiyabonga and Malik Monday, were caught hiding in the Kingdom of Eswatini, Tabane. Court in the Kingdom of Eswatini granted extradition of the demanded brothers. The decision suspects appeal. Authorities in the Kingdom of Eswatini to communicate to South Africa the date of extradition. The two will join the five suspects arrested in KwaZulu-Natal.
A Gqeberha businessman in the Eastern Cape accused of murder and kidnapping, Theo Goha, has been granted bail of 5,000 rand by the New Brighton Magistrate Court in the Eastern Cape. Goha allegedly attacked 18-year-old Mesomihle Nkwelase, leaving him for dead in nearby bushes. It's alleged he later picked up Nkwelase and took him to the hospital where he succumbed to his injuries. Mother of the deceased, Zoleka Nkwelase, says she is disappointed by the court's decision, describing it as a setback in their fight for justice.
Not feeling good at all, but there's nothing I can do. And anyway, even if it didn't have a bail, it won't bring my son back. I'm just hurt.
The Department of International Relations and Cooperation, DECO, has condemned the alleged killings of hundreds of civilians in Sudan's Darfur region, describing these acts as genocidal. Reports indicate that the Rapid Support Forces killed civilians at a hospital in El Fasher over the weekend. DECO has emphasized that the protection of civilians must be a top priority during conflicts. DECO spokesperson Crispin Peary says they hope that the emergency meeting called by the AU will lead to an immediate ceasefire.
The government has since noted that the AU at least has had a Peace and Security Council meeting on these matters, and that is something that we welcome. We really do believe that this conflict will be resolved, not through belligerent acts and continuous arming of the various conflicting forces, but rather by decisive action from the African Union, and we think that we are seemingly heading towards such a space.
A recap on the top story at this hour. KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has broken his silence on the perjury charges laid against him by the National Coloured Congress MP Fadil Adams. For SAFM News, I am Chanduko Ligege.
In sports this hour, India 111 for 2 after 19 overs. They need 228 runs and 31 overs to win. Ellis finally puts pen to paper on new SAFA contract and vessels ban reduced to 8 weeks. More details at 5:30.
And this traffic report is brought to you by Auto & General Business Insurance. Auto & General, never not there. Auto & General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 eastbound in Alberton has a crash reported at Elands Interchange, and the N1 northbound in Pretoria, a stationary truck at Atterbury Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound in Pietermaritzburg has a stationary truck reported before Peter Brown Drive, and the N3 westbound, a fatal crash at Hammersdale has led to the road being closed, and that's causing some heavy delays. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound has a crash before Bunga Avenue, and Marine Drive outbound in Pardon Island queuing towards Lagoon Beach. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
And a reminder, this traffic report was brought to you by Auto & General Business Insurance. Auto & General, never not there. Auto & General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAFM, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide with me, KG Mwegezi.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, just now we're going to talk about what is called You'll Die Waiting For. You'll Die Waiting For, the Justice Report about people killed in Eswatini. We're coming to that just now. But let's get to South Africa if we start with. Let's talk about the Auditor General's report that looked at the country's progress towards the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. In this case here, particularly SGD 4 and 5, with a focus on providing equal and equitable quality education. I better say all this again because it's important. The words, every word matters here. So SGD 4 and 5, providing equal and equitable quality education for children with disabilities by 2030. So where are we with that? Tato Matlambu, Head of Specialized Audits at the Auditor General's Office. Appreciate your time, Tato. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you. I mean, this is a critically important issue. So where are we at regarding it? What have you uncovered?
So, Ashraf, maybe before we even get into some of the details, let me just start by really giving some context to why we even the audit it just reminding the mission of the HSA that we exist in council and government sector, thereby responsibility. And this is really to that we and more often social the CG 4.5 is one that is really informed by the risk assessment that we've done, analysis, really then necessitates a deep dive into really identify where are we as a country. Now, we had some interesting findings with this. Let's look at groupings of this from a governance point of view. South Africa, with very good and interesting policy in this regard. So with DB of 2001, which really has some very good policies that are related to inclusive education. Then also had the white paper, Department of Men, really. Now, there's a very important white paper, charts the way forward in terms of releasing. We need to cater. Again, when you look different, for us here in our findings, the implementation of it was not way to be that were not implemented. Second aspect that we found is that there was some really good intermental collaboration, being specific at the Department of Basic Education, at the treatment doing this, as well as health, that extent. We found that without that collaboration and engagement between key stakeholders, there's really then then we also look at information in terms of what we have as a country. And we found the information. We found that quality data was not complete in terms of counting all the Then we also then we could resources structure put you look at the classroom, setup, the quality of those classroom. Most instances, we found kids that are being taught in terms of science. There were no ramps, failing some of really the infrastructure and resource related, coupled with the quality of teachers, availability of teachers who are skilled in special needs education. That was equally lacking in this. And then lastly, as we speak about thorough monitoring and stuff, is a key point to say, if you look at alignment between CPE, provincial education department, as well as some of the uh, activities, monitoring and making sure that we close the gap for the next. But with all that said, I think it's very important to know that through our engagement with schools, has gone through progress made. There are some, green shoots, and I think, if it is with more one the review of the right stuff has commenced, even if the federal committee is looking to incorporate some of the EGSC recommendations, including the revised white paper. So yeah, these are some of the things that we need to and I think that we can engage on it.
I would take it that yes, when you look into, when you do some research into things, often enough you may even have an end goal answer already, and of course the research then confirms that. Why I'm saying that, I would take it that you would not be surprised by the outcomes here.
So Rashaf, can you
I
please
would
repeat
take
that?
it that the outcomes don't actually surprise you. That means, yes, you have to do research to determine the outcomes, but the reality is we're already having a problem with ensuring equitable and quality education for children without disabilities. So, in a country as disjointed as South Africa, why would it be any different for people with disabilities?
Yeah, I think look, you make an interesting comment, and I think when one looks at the media, some of the things out there see that was upset. However, I can always be on the audit where object that that inform our overall conclusion. From that perspective, I've highlighted alignment with what media.
Okay. I mean, in terms of your research, therefore, were you able to uncover reasons why there was this discrepancy? So, parking aside the issue of people without disabilities, but just saying with disabilities only. So there's this discrepancies in terms of, yes, there's this lack of equitable and quality education. Why, what came through in terms of the why? Would government lack of resources be a good enough reason for that to say we simply can't cope?
Look, I think that's just one of the aspects, right? As we look at and unpack some of the issues, I've already indicated that effective collaboration among key stakeholders that are involved in government, as well as the legal framework, is one. We do need mental collaboration and working together in order to strengthen our position in driving the. We spoke about the inadequate resources today. When you look at the age group where we are seeing significant gaps, from the ages of 0 to 5 years. Now, for those kids, we cannot account for all of them. This is really the challenge, and it's really of the state. No one. Therefore, it is very found. I think because we don't have information systems, we don't have mechanisms to make sure that we compete unless it's some of those key aspects. So that is one of the systems that we are seeing overall in India.
Okay. Anything else that came out that you'd like to share?
Look, I think as I've already indicated, Ashraf, it's probably prudent. Some of our recommendations in this space, what we really get progress, and it's again of emphasizing point the collaboration among stakeholders. At this point, very, very important. Make that when departments work and are then able to start a way forward. More importantly, oversight committees, including planning, make sure that we hold the stakeholders accountable. Then you've got the public, which is equally important, and they play a key role in this. Identifying the case, and if you're living with a child with a disability, please do not keep them at home. It is important that you take them to the relevant schools and you also engage relevant support to make sure that we are able to get all children in their schools. And then, of course, it really is making sure that we invest in infrastructure. We have to invest in the right infrastructure. But once we have the kids in the school, we are able to make sure that their needs and expectations are all met. And then lastly, I think it is important that when we look at the role of foreign providers like the AGSA, or internal audit functions, your audit committee, we play an important role in making sure that we track and monitor some of these commitments made by child. And we hold them accountable as well, raise the rest, and really it will take, collaboration that all the stakeholders in the taking we deliver on the mandate in the community.
I mean, need I say the same conclusion that, of course, this must have a very negative impact on the quality of life of these children with disabilities who already face disadvantages anyway?
I couldn't agree more. Definitely consider them. Okay. However, we do have to acknowledge that, there is need. Part of our role is the land is to make sure that we continue to hold the official accountable, and we make sure that we deliver on their promise.
Okay, let's just recap as we end up. There's been a specific call to action from the Auditor General's side, right? What is that call to action?
We say, firstly, catch them young. It is very important that we catch them from the ages 0 to 5 years old. We make sure that every child living with a disability is in the school. Leave no one behind. It is important. Community, parents, if you've got a child in the state, make sure that you take relevant information and you get the child. Let us also then make sure that our information, the data, systems that we capture are actually at the level that controls quality information and enable decision. But more importantly, it will enable us to track our progress towards achieving goals. Then I think it's important that we really make sure that we provide the necessary monitoring. All the members of the accountability committee, their part. And where action is not delivered, mass transparency to make sure that we hold people accountable. I think that really covers, in a nutshell, our call to action.
Okay, and it's a big call to action that certainly those in power must adhere to and rectify if they haven't done so already. Tato Matlambo, the head of specialized unit audit studies at the Auditor General's office. Much appreciate your time here on the National Pulse.
This October month, SAFM focuses on cybersecurity awareness. As we live more of our lives online, staying safe in the digital world has never been more important. From spotting cyber threats to protecting your personal data, SAFM brings you the conversations that empower you to stay secure. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The Morning Brief.
3,000 mental health crisis calls. What's the spread of the issues that are coming through in those calls?
I think it's also encouraging that so many people are reaching out, and that's been a significant change. Even pre-COVID, we were seeing only about 600 calls per day, and now we're seeing 3,000 incoming calls. And we're having calls from young people who are feeling incredibly anxious and stressed about family problems, relationship issues, trauma, grief, loss. All of these things normally combine to make someone feel incredibly helpless.
Casey Chambers is Operations Director at the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, SADC.
Tulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief. Find the podcast at safm.co.za. You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM. SAFM.
Right, let's pick up another issue. In fact, you may want to comment about that Auditor General report into people with disabilities around quality education. Very, very important issue in terms of us missing targets there. Now, what about other targets? Let's talk about the Human Rights Watch report on the lack of accountability for the killings in Eswatini. Remember that occurred during the pro-democracy protests of 2021. So the report is titled "You Will Die Waiting for Justice. To confirm, it's from Human Rights Watch. It's called You Will Die Waiting for Justice, and it confirms that the Royal Eswatini Police Service and the Umbutfo Eswatini Defense Force improperly used tear gas and rubber bullets and then physically assaulted civilians during the unrest. Let's find out more about it with Norma Masiko Impaka, the Human Rights Watch researcher covering South Africa, Eswatini, and Lesotho. Norma, thank you for joining us on the National Pulse.
Thank you so much for having me. Good afternoon.
Thank you. I mean, there's just the report, the title, I think, in many ways leads us onto what is happening or what is not happening, isn't it? You'll die waiting for justice.
Absolutely. And that title actually is not a title that I came up with. It was a phrase that was used by one of the interviewees that we interviewed, who mentioned how they've been waiting for so long, and that is often, a moment of hope where they feel like finally there'll be some level of accountability, and that they keep waiting year in and year out. There are renewed hopes, but ultimately they feel completely hopeless in this moment, and they feel as though they will die. So this is really a credit to them. This was, in their words.
All right, tell me more then in terms of what your report uncovered.
Yeah. So I think one of the first things that I want to say up front is that, we were really concerned as Human Rights Watch, the fact that, people's lives were altered, and they were, victimized and experienced human rights violations, pro-democracy protests in 2021, right? And now, over 4 years later, nothing has been done. And people's lives, people are far worse now. I mean, the individuals who interviewed lost their limbs and therefore are unable to work. And many of them were breadwinners in their families and can't work. And some have lost, breadwinners in their family. They've lost loved ones. They've lost sense of, certain movements in their arms. And they can't work, and their lives effectively have altered. And whenever somebody's life is altered, especially at the hands of the government, there ought to be remedies, right? And really, that was our concern. And moreover, when we spoke to some of these, particularly ahead of the initial start of the research, many of them were talking about how the government wanted to wish away what happened, firstly. But secondly, those who were victims of the violations of the police were almost labeled as terrorists, as those who were looting during the protest. And what we uncovered in this research, which is also been widely documented, that the police and the military not only targeted those who were protesters in the demonstration, but there were also individuals who were bypassers during the protest, but also those who were completely isolated from the protest. So that was our initial sort of interest in beginning this research in the first. And what also we discovered is that the police did shoot indiscriminately at individuals, and that often when you're dealing with protests, there's supposed to be a sort of sequencing of sort of a sequence or escalation mechanism that police would use. So you don't start with a gun, when people are peacefully protesting. You would escalate the level of force that you use. And often, in this case, there was no escalation. They would run to, live ammunition without warning individuals, without any kind of, and it honestly unjustifiably. And the force was excessive. It was not equal to what was in front of them. And a number of rights, of course, as such, were implemented, were violated, such as the right to freedom of assembly, freedom of association, freedom of expression, and rights to information, because as you know, during that time, the internet was shut down. So I think really our call as Human Rights Watch is that people's lives have been altered, their lives are not the same. These people were not hit by a car just passing by, or likely they were injured by the police, by the military. They ought to be redressed. There ought to be some kind of program of reparations for these individuals who are unable to work. I mean, some of the people we spoke to, for example, I spoke to one young man who's now about 17, 18 years old. He lives at, in the rural areas, almost to the border of Mozambique in Eswatini. And he's now, using a wheelchair to move around. And he's in the rural areas. His parents are unemployed. He's got all these medical bills and medical expenses that he's struggling to meet. And we need the government, for example. This is just one of many cases where people's lives have been altered, their financial standing has been altered, and there needs to be some kind of reparation, some kind of redress.
Well, let's talk about the needs to be some type of reparations. I mean, so seriously, what do you think is likely to happen? I mean, I understand yours is a report, But based upon what you know, what happens when reports like this are delivered around the world, what happens next?
Well, I mean, we're hoping that, the Eswatini authorities will come to the table firstly and meet with the victims themselves. I mean, many of them have formed these associations, right? Of victims and survivors. And what we're hoping for, and this is what we're pushing for, in support of the needs of the victims, but also based on what they have said to us as well, that we need jobs, we need access to jobs, we need access to psychosocial support. Many of them are living with a lot of trauma from what they experienced. They were young people, as young as 14. They experienced so much trauma. People are in need of also rehabilitation. I mean, there's one young man who uses crutches to walk around, and with some level of physical therapy, for example, maybe there could be some inroads in terms of his rehabilitation. So the victims have a number of needs, and what we're hoping is that the government will be able to, together with these victim associations and formations, come together, brainstorm, talk about what the needs of the victims are, and then come up with some kind of reparation program, which would include maybe financial compensation, psychosocial support, some kind of any victim-centered sort of reparation program that is based on their needs is what we are hoping for. But over and above that, I think what we also need is the strengthening of policies and procedures that would guard against the force. The police and military need to be trained and sensitized, made aware of what to do in instances of protest. Because we're living in the continent and you're seeing what's happening all across the continent right now, where protests are happening. They happen during elections. That the profile of protesters is getting younger and younger. So protests are going to continue to happen in the continent, and we need our police and military to be trained properly in how to manage with them.
Has there been any
Yes.
has there been any response so far from the Eswatini government?
So we wrote to the Eswatini authorities. Unfortunately, they did not respond in time when the report came out. But we are hoping to engage with them, and not only them, but also the human rights oversight body, the Human Rights Commission, which actually just a couple of months after the protest back in 2021, they released a preliminary report about the violation. So we're wanting to follow up. Well, there was a preliminary report in October 2021. It is now almost November 2025. Is there a final report? The recommendations that they had in that report, has the government implemented? Because according to the victims, it's been nothing.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Maybe that last line is the most telling. According to the victims, it's been nothing. Norma Masiko Mpaka, Human Rights Watch researcher, covering the regions of, South Africa, Lesotho, but specifically in this case, Eswatini. And that report is called You'll Die Waiting for Justice. Anybody else has a deep insight into Eswatini, our neighbors? I'd love to know. How about you calling in or WhatsApping us and telling us, particularly the human story, if you know much about people personally? I want to hear it. Let's get the news headlines. Here's Sanduko Ligege.
Thank you, Ashraf. Good afternoon. These are your headlines. Deputy President Paul Mashatile says the processes of the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry indicate how much cleaning of the policing sector must be done. KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has broken his silence on the perjury charges laid against him by the National Coloured Congress MP Fadil Adams. And Africa's financial institutions have committed to generate billions of US dollars needed to finance the continent's infrastructure development. I'll be back at 6 with a full bulletin.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, rain reported across parts of the province, so please do reduce your speeds and drive with absolute care in the affected areas. The N1 southbound in Centurion has a crash at Brakfontein Interchange, and the N1 southbound in Fourways, a crash at Winnie Mandela Drive. In KZN, on the M4, a crash between Umhlanga Rocks Drive and Sibaya Drive traffic circle, and that is queuing traffic both ways. In KZN on the M4, there's a crash between Umhlanga Rocks Drive and Sibaya Drive traffic circle, queuing traffic both ways. The N3 westbound has a fatal crash at Hammersdale, which has led to the road being closed off and causing some heavy delays. And the N2 northbound has a crash reported after the M41 gateway exit. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound queuing towards Bunga Avenue, Main Road southbound is slow moving through Cork Bay, and Hout Bay Main Road northbound slow moving towards Constantia Neck. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumin Khapele.
Right, Tumi's eyes on who will play South Africa in the World Cricket Cup finals, in fact, the one-day game. Tumi?
Yeah, cricket on the go. India currently on 158 for two. They need 181 of 146 balls. They actually just scored four. They hit a boundary, so now they're sitting on 162 for two. This is after 25 overs. Remember, the winner between India and Australia is going to face South Africa. Earlier on, Australia were bowled out for 338 with one ball to spare, with Phoebe Litchfield top scoring at 119. Then moving on to athletics, World Athletics have uncovered the theft of just over 1.5 million euros, which is around 30 million rand, by two employees and a contracted consultant over several years. One employee left before the theft was discovered, while another employee and the consultant had their contracts terminated, and the case has been handed over for criminal investigation. Meanwhile, in terms of football, South African Football Association President Danny Jordan has confirmed that Banyana head coach Desiree Ellis has officially signed a new 4-year contract. Banyana recently secured qualification for next year's Women's Africa Cup of Nations without Ellis on the bench, as contract talks had been going on. And Jordan says that the new deal now will allow Ellis to fully focus on preparing the team for the upcoming WAFCON tournament and building on their recent success.
We are focusing on Morocco and Nigeria. They're not the only two. Ghana has got a strong team. Senegal is coming up. Congo, as we've seen, is coming up. And it's going to be difficult. So we also have to not rest on our laurels. We used to, or we were the African champions, and therefore we relax. They must rebuild. And I've given her that message. We will sit down with her to say, what is your strategy? How do we move forward? How do we rebuild and strengthen the team?
Well, the SA Under-17 men's football team left for Qatar today for the FIFA Under-17 World Cup. South Africa are in Group A together with their first opponents, Bolivia, who they're playing on the 3rd of November, Italy, and the host Qatar. Then Mamelodi Sundowns have been dealt with a blow, with Tebogo Mokoena ruled out of Saturday's clash against Orlando Pirates. This is due to suspension. The midfielder picked up his 4th yellow card in the 121st minute in Sundowns' calling knockout defeat to Marumo Gallants. Meanwhile, Real Madrid and the promoters of the failed European Super League are currently demanding more than $4 billion in damages from UEFA, accusing the governing body of unfairly crushing their breakaway competition. Now, a Spanish court this week dismissed an appeal from UEFA, marking another legal setback for the organization. The Super League was launched back in 2021 by 12 top European clubs, including Real Madrid and Barcelona, but collapsed within days following backlash from fans, especially in England, and threats of sanctions from UEFA and FIFA. In rugby, Springbok and Bulls prop Jan Hendricks Wessels has had his suspension reduced from 9 to 8 weeks. This is after losing his appeal against a ban for allegedly manhandling an opponent. Now, Wessels was initially handed a 9-match suspension for grabbing Connacht flanker Josh Murphy during a United Rugby Championship clash. And although match officials found no clear evidence at the time, the disciplinary committee later imposed the ban, a decision which really sparked anger among South African rugby fans. Meanwhile, the Sinatla Sevens tournament takes center stage, and that is from the 7th to the 8th of November. And it is hosted by Sabelo Sinatla in partnership with the Connect Academy. And it will see under 11s, 13s, under 15s, and under 17 boys and under 18 girls from community teams across Cape Town and the wider region compete for glory over 2 thrilling days. Just a quick check up. India currently on 165 for 2 after 27 overs. They need 174 more runs from 138 balls to beat Australia. Who is going to face South Africa come Sunday? We are yet to see, but we know who Marizan Cup wants in that particular final. Before I leave, if you were to guess between Barcelona and Real Madrid, the El Clasico, and Liverpool versus Manchester United, which one was mostly viewed worldwide? Which one is bigger? Let me say, which one is bigger, do you think?
Manchester United, Liverpool.
Absolutely not. El Clasico. El Clasico had over 600 million viewers versus 500 million viewers of Liverpool and Man United. Close, but not that close.
All right. And that's the El Clasico without Ronaldo and Messi. I'd like to know what that was at that stage.
Yeah.
5 years ago. That's crazy. Listen, talking about views, so it's a crazy one. The World Cup final, I think it's about 11, 12 o'clock our time on Sunday. And I'm going to miss it.
Oh, yeah, because you're flying.
Because I'm flying. So I'm off to Munich, Germany, for this One Young World Conference. So I'm already thinking as I'm talking to you, whether there's free Wi-Fi on the plane, I don't know, but I'm going to have to watch that entire game, which will last the entire flight from Joburg to Munich until I land.
Hopefully they show it on the flight.
Well, either way, I need to make a plan. Absolutely. Never happened to me before, but I have to try it out.
Well, I'll have more on other sports tomorrow.
So you thought you were building a business in this economy, but day by day, somehow it grew. You kept going when the freezer didn't freeze, the bucket didn't budge, and the bank balance barely blinked. So you thought you were building a business. You weren't. It was building you. Because this isn't just what you do anymore. It's who you are. And you don't trust just anybody to protect it. Chat to your broker about Old Mutual Insure Business Insurance. Protect what built you. Old Mutual Insure Limited is a licensed FSP and non-life insurer.
This is Lungi on any other regular day.
This economy makes me post once a day. Who does that? Like, ew.
Now this is Lungi getting extra with the 20 gig summer deal for just 99 Rand.
I have so many gigs. I could even have a gig, guys. I'm going live every single day to me because guess
Extra your summer. Get 20 gigs plus 2 months free YouTube Premium and 100 Vodabucks exclusively on the Vodafone app. T's and C's apply. Further together, Vodacom.
48 countries have gathered in the Middle East for the massive FIFA Under-17 World Cup Qatar 2025. It's game on everywhere. Rally behind Mzansi's Amachimbos and 9 African nations as they chase glory on the world stage. Catch the action live on SABC Plus, SABC radio stations, and SABC TV channels from 3 to 27 November 2025. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
And those facts and figures, as always, is brought to you by the one and only Jimmy Moyaha. Jimmy, top of the agenda.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. Top of the agenda is taking a look at medical aid tax credits. We're going to see if we can get some clarity around that. We have been hearing calls for the government to provide us with some clarity around those tax credits, and perhaps we'll get that clarity when we go into the midterm budget policy statement in about 2 weeks. But for now, we're going to speak to the Board of Healthcare funders around that and just potentially look at the implications of some of the scenarios if we do have medical tax credits removed, if we do have them retained, how that will affect consumers and how that will affect the taxes that consumers pay there, or the relief that consumers are able to benefit from there. We've also got a conversation with the team at Standard Bank taking a look at the South African Future Trust Summit that is set to take place next week. We're going to get a sense of just the importance of that in the entrepreneurial landscape and what it means for Standard Bank from an involvement perspective. Then we've got a conversation with the Chief Executive Officer at Dis-Chem, taking a look at the first 6 months of their new financial year. We're going to get a sense of how they kicked off the new year from a performance perspective and what lies ahead. We've also got a conversation with the team at South African Breweries, taking a look at some of their alternative products, their non-alcoholic range, and what it is that they continue to focus on 130 years on from when they first began. And then because it is Thursday, we've got a small business conversation, an SME to spotlight. We're going to be taking a look at an SME that is providing a unique solution to commercial EV rentals. We're going to speak to them and get a sense of what it is that their solution does and how it differs from what is out there in the market. Before those conversations, however, a sense of the markets and how they've performed throughout the day. It's been a sea of red on the equity side of things, a couple of spots of green here and there, but by and large, equity markets, almost all of them in the red. The Nikkei in Tokyo was up about 4 basis points, which is almost flat. But that was the only market in the green in Asian markets. In European markets, the DAX was almost the smallest loser of the day, down about 5 basis points, whereas the CAC 40 was down about 0.75% and the FTSE in London down 0.33%. If we look at US markets that have opened recently and that are still going to be trading, the Nasdaq is down almost a full percent at the moment, the S&P down 1/3. South African markets didn't fare much better. If we look at the financial stocks, they were down about 1.3%. Industrials down almost a full percent. Resources up about 0.4%. That was on the back of stronger commodities prices. We'll get to those in a second. The All Share and the top 40 in each case down about 0.2%. Those commodity prices, the gold price, $4,000 a fine ounce on the dot. The Brent crude price, $64.60 a barrel. Platinum, 1,604. And palladium, 1,466. The rand weakening 0.2% against the US dollar, almost 0.75%, back at 17 rand 31. At some point yesterday, we were at 17 rand and 5 cents. So going to be interesting to see where we go to from here. Especially on the back of that interest rate cut that we did receive from the United States. We'll be looking at that in markets a little later on. But before we go, quick look at the rest of the currency movements. The rand against the British pound, 22 rand 75. 1 euro is once again above 20 rand at 20 rand and 1 cent. And 1 Australian dollar, 11 rand 33. 1 Bitcoin, $107,000 a Bitcoin. But with the weaker rand, that's still 1.862 million rand. So we're back below 1.9 million rand on the Bitcoin price. I've got Pietri Redlinges joining me on markets. We're going to take a look at the movements from a commodities perspective, the rates decision, and more importantly, that deal between the United States and China that President Trump was so eager to announce to the world. But those conversations come up after the 6 p.m. news. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
All right, perfect. Lots to consider and lots to get excited about. 6 to 7. With the Jimmy Moyaha on the SAFM market update. What's going to excite me now is hearing you out right after this.
Access to the internet is vital for any country to grow. That's why the recent 6.75 billion rand digital infrastructure deal that Standard Bank Corporate and Investment Banking facilitated between Telkom and an Actors-led consortium is so transformational for South Africa. It unlocks growth and provides internet access to underserved communities who will now have access to the internet for the very first time. Search CIB Stories of Impact to watch the full story.
Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. Easy to apply, no medical examinations, and no paperwork. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
There's no time to fudge around on the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7:30 on SABC2. After surviving elimination and making it to the top 10, our young chefs pair up to craft colorful gift boxes of fudge from scratch. But will their flavors melt hearts or melt away under pressure? That's the Tastemaster Junior, Tuesday evenings at 7:30. Repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, we've had responses, in fact, on the conversations we've had regarding the Auditor General's report on equitable quality education for children with disabilities, and then on the issue of Eswatini, and on Sudan, outside the Madlanga Commission too, right? So here's one about Sudan.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and SAFM listeners. The Sudan story is quite a sad one. Very sad, very sad. What makes it more unfortunate is that there's no voice coming out of Africa to act and condemn what is happening. Where people coming out of South Africa are going to other parts of the world, attending to crisis in other parts of the world, but leaving Africa in crisis. I don't understand what kind of leaders we have. They leave the shores of Africa, they go to the West and attend the West crisis, leave Africa with their problems, but they're coming from Africa.
Okay, well, I mean, you know what? Like, for example, South Africa has been critical of what's happened in Sudan, and so is others, but it appears there's like no teeth, meaning critical as in, soft teeth. There's nothing that's decisive. I mean, if there is, then please tell us so we know.
Ashraf, listening to the ad hoc commission and all our politicians grilling the police people, etc., and I'm wondering, where has their own integrity been for most of those politicians doing the questioning? Where has their role been of taking care? They're a big fuss about, you take care of me, you take care of that. Well, they've been earning very decent salaries. Have they taken care of their duties and responsibilities of oversight, etc., all of these years? It just smacks of such double standards when I hear so many of these politicians grilling. Clearly, they need to be grilled, and we need the whole truths, which I doubt we'll ever get. But I hope the politicians take lessons themselves.
Well, thank you for that. Maybe, that seems like the most obvious thing I've heard. It's pretty obvious, but, what's obvious doesn't happen too often. Like, what about the deputy ministers?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. This is Kwarela Chinyaza from Poyambu. You know what, Ashraf? I don't agree with that suggestion of the Action SA that the deputy ministers should be scrapped. What should happen is that we must have the deputy ministers and the ministers from the different political parties. Now that we have the GNU, that will also help to fight corruptions, because these two will monitor each other's, and make sure there's a huge competition amongst themselves. We must have those two competing against each other, because they are coming from the different political parties, as it is happening right now.
Wow. Okay. Deputy ministers, yes, no. They must not drop them. Okay.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, my personal opinion is, if this allegation happens to be true, and then the death of those 3 constables from Bloemfontein is linked to all this investigation that is currently going on. All these members, so that minister, and then the deputy commissioner, and then all those officials involved, they must be sent to prison, they must be charged, each with the men of all those people who have died along this battle. And then those sentences shouldn't run concurrently. We must change the thing of sentences running concurrently, I think.
Okay. They must run concurrently. Yeah, I was asking the question about, have you watched both? And how do you measure up one against the other? Just in terms of sheer entertainment value and then sheer findings value.
Hello, Ashraf. Ashraf, listening to the ad hoc committee, the Madlanga Commission, the likes of Hangwana Maumela by now, they would be in prison if it were in another country. The likes of the Minister Mkhunu would be in prison by now. But unfortunately, in our country, the wheels of justice take too long to turn. That's very unfortunate. Churchill from the Eastern Cape.
Too long to turn. Do they turn at all?
Afternoon, Ashraf, is Hamilton. Here's my conclusion before the conclusion. The reason why there's been no arrest after the Zondo Commission considered its investigation is because Zondo Commission was mainly focused on the administrative part of the state capture. And now, Madlanga Commission is focused on the judicial, which will do the arrest. So I'm hoping and praying that after all this, we shall see more arrests. That's what Hamilton.
Well, listen, if we don't see arrests, then what would be the purpose of these commissions? And then the criticism that many people have about one commission after the other that's wonderful to talk about, with no real meaningful, tangible results and impact comes to the fore once again. And that, in fact, further discredits the commissions and people who actually convene these commissions.
Hi, Ashraf and the listeners. It seems as if we believe everything that is said against Mkono or Sibiya without perusing it. For instance, today, witness sees evidence. It's not tangible since it has paper trail or video footage, but we still believe it because it is against Mkono or Sibiya, especially speaking in Durban.
Okay, there we are. Well, I mean, you're right about that. And that's what we've said when people said, people are dismissing Mkonazi. That's not the point, is you have to be convicted. So at the moment, there's lots of allegations. Let's concede that they are damning, but they are allegations.
Hi. Good afternoon, Ashra. This is Mfugeng from Bloemfontein. Ashra, I think Matlala and Mkhotsi, they must be protected. They must be protected, whether they're in prison or outside. I think we need them. We need their evidence. I think their evidence is going to be very, 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 very crucial. So they need to be protected by all means. Even if Mkonazi needs to protect them, he needs to go and protect them. Thank you so much.
Okay, got that. Right, I'm trying to get as many as possible, so you can still send a couple of WhatsApps, and we'll see if we can play them.
Ashraf, good afternoon, man. Floros here from the beautiful Winelands. Let me tell you, people are calling for Cyril to hire Senzo. Senzo is the one who classified the Palapala report. So yeah, I think Cyril is between a rock and a hard place when it comes to Senzo. That's my honest opinion. Have a good job. Bye-bye.
Well, the show is almost over, so thank you for listening in to the show. Here's another.
All these things that are coming out from the commissioner will never be sorted out because the ANC is still the government. The best thing is to take the ANC government out of power, then everything will be sorted out. I think that was speaking in contributing.
So you just take them out of power, everything is sorted out. I don't know if it's as clear-cut as that. Here's one. Ashraf, sir, Ashraf's fine. As South Africans, let's stand up now and redirect what we want our country to go and put leaders that we want now with immediate effect. Comes from Isaac. And another, South Africa is a circus, really. We allow criminals to create negotiation platforms. That is the commissions of inquiries. As South Africans, we allow that instead of putting these people cooperating outside the law. If there's sort of some text messages that are missing there. Man of the Match award voted by the fans. That's why you will remain unfair. Most probably Chiefs fans voted for Chipazezi just so that Pirates don't get it, from Lungisani Kuzwayo in Peter Maritzburg. Well, yeah. And then there's another, Mkonazi said that this is the tip of the iceberg. This is the new silent revolution where truth is spoken, secrets in the out. We need such mentality to even go investigate what really transpired and agreed at CODESA on land dispossession of blacks, economic structure, arms deals, CR17, mafia fund, dollars in Palapala, 2024 election results. It's year. What about the 2024 election results? What did you find strange about those results? Ashraf, this Luthuli murder ruling shows that state capture isn't a new phenomenon. I've heard that one before, so there we are. Let me do this. Maybe time for one or two more calls if we can, or WhatsApp comments. If you're up for it, just send it to. But I'll tell you something. So a couple of things that you need to know. So yesterday we had the let me get it right. The sponsors of Brave Awards. Now, which is awards given to a whole lot of journalists, but it's not awards as in one winner. Let me put that out of the picture. And they then identify all these people who are doing good work in their field. It's called the Adcock Ingram Sponsors of Brave. So I can tell you now from our side, I mean, there were about at least 50 plus people who acknowledged, okay? And I'm looking at people like Sakina Kamwendo, Kathy Motlatlana, myself too, but many others from different radio and television channels, okay? And I just want to say, I mean, one of the key points of that acknowledgement of a grouping is just the role of journalists and the role of media. And I think it's particularly important in the light of what we've heard around the Madlanga Commission, in the light of what we've heard around the ad hoc committee, and a point that I referenced yesterday on the arrival of Francesca Albanese in terms of who reports what and how is that covered. So I think it's called Sponsors of Brave, not necessarily because they're brave journalists, but it was held at the Wits Auditorium or Planetarium. It's been renamed, the Dome, right? Under the stars, and saying that in many ways these media people are inconsequential when pitched against the millions of stars in the galaxy. On the other hand, all these stars that appear inconsequential are in fact very, very consequential in terms of the role they play. So that's one thing I thought you needed to know. The other part is, yes, there's one Young World Conference I alluded to. So I attended it last year in Montreal. This year it'll come up in Munich. It happens from Monday night. I'll be there for at least a week or so. Maybe I'll tell you more about that tomorrow. Let's talk about children with disability.
Hi, thank you. Great discussion about children with disabilities and education. Having been through this road myself, I think it's a little bit of a theoretical discussion. The first step in this process is getting your child diagnosed, which is extremely difficult, especially from a state availability perspective. And then once your child is diagnosed, trying to get them into a school. There are very few schools available. And the third issue is transport. How does one get your child to and from these schools, because they are not as readily available in your local neighborhood as what a regular school is. And depending on the nature of disability, some of the children cannot attend classes within a neurotypical environment. They need to go to special schools, and these are far and few between. So yes, really in support of more of this, but there are a lot of practical issues to be dealt with beforehand, before school.
Well, I mean, there you are, and that's the point, that already people who do not have disabilities already struggle around the disparities in education. I can just imagine what happens. In fact, I can't imagine it. That's the truth. You don't know because you don't know, but it must be incredibly difficult. I can tell you there's been a few other messages, but they're like well over 52 seconds, 1 minute 14. Really, we can't. 30 seconds or so is what we really encourage you to do. Short, sharp, to the point, one key message via WhatsApp. So I really can't play them, unfortunately. But let's do the show again tomorrow, the National Pulse. Thank you for listening, and thank you for joining. Thank you for engaging. You can tweet as well, even now, # the National Pulse. Right now, let's get to the news at 6 years. Chanduko.